Your name again for the record, please.
Erik Menendez.
All right, I'll remind you that you're still under oath. All right, you may continue your cross-examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Menendez, drawing your attention again to August 18th, 1989, when you were at the first store, the Big Five store, sporting goods shop in Santa Monica, what information did you receive at that store regarding what you would have to do to purchase guns?
The main thing that I remember is that upon leaving the store, I knew I had to wait 2 weeks. And that's the main thing that I received.
Now, were you told at that time that you would have to have any particular pieces of identification? Or were you simply told that you would have to wait to make the purchase?
We never got that far. It was a short conversation. And I told him that I wanted to buy a gun and I wanted to buy it today. And he told me that I could not buy guns, handguns, over the counter in one day.
And that was after you had selected the gun of your choice, the handgun of your choice, correct?
No, that's not what I said. I was there and I pointed out to a gun, and the first gun I pointed to, he said was a BB gun. And then that's when we had the conversations about handguns.
Is that right?
Yes.
Now, you indicated that, I believe you indicated on Friday that you had actually seen guns and you made you selected a gun. And as you indicated, the real guns were in front of you. And I believe you said the BB guns were off to one side and it was a 2-shelf glass container, correct?
Can I object, Your Honor, that misstates the text.
Well, it's compound in that you combine a lot of different things there. Perhaps you can break it down a little bit.
Sure, Your Honor. Why don't you tell these jurors what you did at that gun store? What is your story today?
Object to the form of the question argumentative.
Rephrase the question, please.
Mr. Kuriyama, I was there.
Wait. There's a question. He'll ask you a question.
Mr. Menendez, you indicated that you had seen real handguns at the Big Five store in Santa Monica, correct?
Yes, that's what I remembered. The store that I was at was within 1 to 2 blocks of the freeway, like I said on Friday. I had gone in and I had saw in a glass display case handguns, not revolvers, but just handguns. And I pointed to the first gun and I asked him if I could see that. And he said it was a BB gun. And from my memory, the real guns were over to the left and the BB guns were over to the right. That's what my memory is.
And you and your brother selected a real handgun, correct?
No, I don't know what my brother did, but I had pointed to one and I had asked if I could buy that today. And that's when we had the discussion about the 2-week waiting period.
And what was the substance, the extent of that conversation that you had at this Big Five store?
Just that
with the clerk?
We could not get handguns over the counter, that we'd have to wait. They have to do research on you or something like that.
Now, were you told that is that all he told you? Is that you had to wait 2 weeks?
That's what I remember. Everything else doesn't stick out of my mind so well because it didn't matter to me. Once I knew I couldn't buy the guns over a counter, then it didn't matter to me whether I could buy it 2 weeks from now or not, because it wasn't important.
So other than that, you had no information about any other requirements in respect to buying handguns?
Yes.
You indicated that you went down to San Diego, correct?
Yes.
And the first place you stopped at in San Diego was a Bob's Big Boy restaurant.
No.
No?
No.
Where did you go?
We went to another gun store.
Before you went to Bob's Big Boy?
Yes.
Are you sure of that?
Absolutely positive.
And how far away was this gun store from the Big Five gun store in San Diego?
I don't know. It was all in the same general area. I don't know how far away it was. Maybe. I really don't know. I just remember what the store looked like. And then we had, I guess it was lunch at the Bob's Big Boy.
That's after you went to the first gun store.
Yes.
So you went to the first gun store, and what did you do?
We looked at the guns. At that point, we decided that we might as well get shotguns. Lyle had indicated to me that, well, it didn't matter. There was a rack of rifles and shotguns, and that's when we had this conversation with the guy down there about what it was that we could do. And he took one of them down, and we looked at it. And that's when we were about to buy it.
Buy the shotgun,
Yes,
the pump shotgun.
the pump shotgun.
Were you going to buy 2 at that time?
I think so, yes.
Now, what happened at that store?
We were told that we needed identification and driver's license. And that's when I told Lyle I didn't have any.
And did your brother indicate that he had his license with him?
He didn't have his.
Now, you've indicated that you had several bogus or fake driver's licenses, correct?
No, I had Donovan Goodrose and I had my Glenn Stevens ID.
And you also, excuse me, counsel? And you also had your own driver's license, correct?
I did not have my driver's license. I wasn't suspended, but I didn't have it.
And you indicated that you had lost that license sometime?
Yes,
Did you file that information with the California DMV to try to get a new license?
no, I did not.
You never did that?
No, it didn't seem important to me.
So after you lost your valid California license, you did not ask for the DMV to send you a new one?
Well, you couldn't just send for a new one. You had to go wait in a long line, and I didn't even bother. There was nothing I could do with the license anyway.
What do you mean by that?
It means I was 18 years old at the time, and having a driver's license on me, I never used it, really had to use it for anything that I remember. And so I didn't bother. I was told by the police officer in July that I needed to get a new one, because otherwise every time I got a ticket, he'd keep writing me up for it. But didn't seem that important.
So you lost this license, never tried to get a new one by going into DMV. Was that because you had this Mr. Stevens license with your picture on it? So you had actually a DMV driver's license, California license.
The Richard Stevens ID didn't matter. I didn't use it for traffic tickets because it wasn't me. But I'd lost the license. I'd lost the license several times before, and I remember once. I guess it was either in '86 or I guess it was in '87. I did go back and get a new one, but once I lost it again, I didn't bother. And then when I turned 18, and I guess I was no longer on the probationary status as a juvenile, I got a new one.
Probationary status as a juvenile, what are you talking about?
When you're 16 and 17, your driver's license is sort of, I guess it's not a full driver's license. So once I turned 18, it became a full driver's license.
You indicated that you have never had a New Jersey driver's license?
I certainly did not have a New Jersey driver's license before my parents died. I had no reason for one.
And your brother had a New Jersey driver's license, however, correct?
Yes.
And he also had a California driver's license.
Yes.
And he was driving that day, was he not?
Yes.
He had his license with him that day, did he not?
I have no idea if he had the New Jersey driver's license,
So there
but
was
his California one was suspended.
There was no discussion between the two of you as to having a driver's license. When you indicated to him that you didn't have your driver's license, what discussion took place?
I remember the main point is I said I had Donovan's, but I don't remember if he had his New Jersey driver's license. If we asked the guy if you can use a New Jersey driver's license, I don't remember that. The main point is that I remembered we were away from the counter and that I said, Lyle, I don't have my driver's license, but I have this Donovan's, but it's not me. And it was real suspicious that as soon as he asked us for a driver's license, we sort of said, Lyle, I need to talk to you. So we just decided to leave that store.
The first store that you stopped at, the man said that you had to have a driver's license, correct?
What's the question, Dave?
In San Diego, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, in San Diego.
And nothing was said in Santa Monica.
None about driver's licenses, no.
So when you went to San Diego to this first store and you learned that you needed a license, was your brother there with you?
Yes,
So you both knew that a license was necessary,
yes.
and you were chosen to make the purchase.
I'm the one that looked most like Donovan.
You were the one that had Donovan's license.
Yes.
And was there discussion as to why Lyle, your brother, did not use his license?
His New Jersey license?
Yes.
Like I said, I don't remember. He may have said that we can't use a New Jersey driver's license. He may have asked. I have no idea. I don't remember.
Well, you have indicated that you were the one that it was decided before you got to the Big Five San Diego store that would use Donovan's license, correct?
I don't remember indicating that.
Was there discussion prior to when you got to the Big Five store in San Diego as to who would make the purchase?
In Big Five, yes, at the Big Five, I was definitely making the purchase. There's no question about that.
So are you saying that during this transaction, when a license was asked for, you had to go talk to your brother to discuss the license situation?
You're confusing me. There are two stores down in San Diego. The first one, which we found out we needed a driver's license, and then there's the Big Five, which we already knew we needed a driver's license before we entered it. And at that point, I'm the one that had the Donovan ID. I'm the one that looked like Donovan, so I was going to use a driver's license. There was no discussion at the Big Five.
Now, the question is, was there discussion between you and your brother about him not using his New Jersey license, which had his picture on it,
Where?
at any time?
There may have been one at the other gun store. I don't remember. He may have even asked if he can use a New Jersey driver's license. I do not remember.
Are you guessing at that?
I'm saying that I do not remember.
And I'm asking whether or not you remember any discussion between the two of you as to who would make the purchase
Where?
at either gun store.
Once we found out that I didn't have a driver's license, that we needed a driver's license, we had a discussion that I was going to use the Donovan ID. Yes.
Now, this discussion, what I'm asking you, sir, is whether your brother indicated that he had his New Jersey license, but it had his photograph on it. So therefore, he could not use that license.
Yes, and I don't remember. We may have.
What you wanted to do is hide your identity at that point in the purchase of these guns. Isn't that correct?
Objection.
Is that correct?
I would not have hidden my identity by using my brother's friend's ID. That was not our purpose.
You were not trying to hide your identity by using someone else's ID? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is it wouldn't have been a very smart move. Apparently it wasn't. That was not our purpose. We weren't trying to do that. We had wasn't even a thought of. We didn't have a conversation about it.
Now, it would have been a little dumber to use your own ID, wouldn't it have?
Object, Your Honor's argument.
I didn't have an ID.
Did your brother have an ID?
Asked and answered.
He may have had his New Jersey driver's license. I don't know.
Now, you indicated that you left early in the morning on August 18th. You were gone the whole day, correct?
Yes, we left down to San Diego sometime either morning or very early afternoon.
And it was your intent that morning, after discussing with your brother, after you were out there playing or hitting tennis balls, practicing your serve, you intended, and the goal for the day was to get guns. Isn't that correct?
Yes.
Now, after you went to the Big Five store in Santa Monica, why didn't you simply go to another store nearby your house?
After we went to the store in next to the freeway, I don't know. We didn't know what we were going to do at that point. We knew we couldn't get handguns, and so, I mean, the man at the store said that what we can buy over the counter are rifles and shotguns, but we just didn't have any intention of doing that.
At that point, was that at the Big Five store that the first one in Santa Monica where the man said you could buy rifles or shotguns, but you can't buy these handguns?
You're saying it's at the Big Five store, and I'm assuming.
No, you said that.
Yes. Yes. I'm saying it's at a store within 1 to 2 blocks of the freeway. I believe the Big Five is there. At that store, he told us that we could buy rifles and shotguns over the counter, but we had no intention of doing that since we were buying these guns to carry on us.
At that point, you knew that you could buy a hand or a rifle or a shotgun, correct?
Yes.
And I believe your brother testified that you didn't want to get the rifle or shotgun at that point because it might look a little fishy. something to that effect, correct?
No, that was at the store down in San Diego after I told the man I needed to discuss this with my brother, that I didn't have my ID.
At the Big Five store in Santa Monica, you were told that if you couldn't wait for these handguns, you could buy a shotgun or a rifle today.
Yes,
Yep,
that's what
you
he
were
told
told?
us.
So at that point, your goal was to buy guns to protect yourself, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was our goal.
Okay. And there were, I believe, Detective Zoller testified that there were about 100 gun stores within a 10-mile radius of your house. Isn't that correct?
I guess, yes.
Why didn't you go to a local gun store and make the purchase, one other than the Big Five in Santa Monica?
Because at that point, we weren't planning on buying rifles or shotguns. This was something that we wanted to do. We didn't see how rifles or shotguns were going to protect us from anything. If you had to run to your room to get them in danger, it just didn't make sense at the time. So we didn't know what we were going to do. And we just left. We just wanted to stay away for the day.
Now, why did you want to stay away for the day?
Because we didn't know what we were going to do. And we did not want to go back to the house where my mother was. We wanted to think, I guess. I don't remember.
Now, you could have thought in Van Nuys. You didn't have to go to San Diego for that.
Objection argument.
You wanted to get away to think, correct?
Yes.
Now, you indicated that after going to the Santa Monica Big Five, you headed toward the Santa Monica beach, and in fact, you ended up on Ocean Boulevard at some point, correct?
Yeah, I remember we were on Santa Monica Boulevard, and I believe that's where the store was. And we just kept on going down the boulevard until we hit, I guess it was Ocean. I know we were on Ocean at one point.
Now, you could have stopped at the beach and thought about this there, couldn't you?
Objection argument. Overruled.
Yes, we could have.
Okay. And you had indicated that there was no Big Five store in Beverly Hills, correct?
I didn't know of any Big Five store in Beverly Hills. My purpose wasn't to go to a Big Five store. It was just to go to a store that had handguns.
Now, when you indicated that you wanted to stay away from the house, your brother has testified that he knew that your father had left the house for work that day, correct?
I guess, if that's what he testified to.
And also that day being a Thursday, the maid, Flor Surrey, was there, correct?
States the evidence that it was not a Thursday.
I'm sorry, Friday, during the day. The maid was there, Flor.
I assume the maid was there.
Okay, so you had no reason to believe that she wasn't there at the house.
No,
So you weren't afraid to go back to the house.
we didn't want to go back to the house. This is where all the things were happening. We're inside the house, and that's just the last place we wanted to be that day. We certainly didn't want to go there to talk about things. We just wanted to stay out for the day. I don't know why that was my mindset, but I just wanted to stay away from the house for the day.
Now, you indicated that you actually made the purchase of the shotguns at the Big Five store in San Diego, correct?
Yes, that's what I found out.
And that you testified that the lady helping you pulled the shotgun out of the box. She took the plug out of one of the shotguns, correct?
Yeah, I remember she was showing us, it was a long box with white styrofoam in it, and she was showing us the gun and she was taking it apart. And I remember the tube underneath, she either pulled out or unscrewed out, and she mentioned something about a stopper that if you took out, you were able to put more shells in.
Do you remember Amanda Adams testifying in this trial?
I remember she was here. I didn't recognize her.
That you simply came up and asked for the two shotguns, you knew what kind of guns you wanted,
Yeah, she,
and that she didn't pull it out of a box and she didn't display it for you and demonstrate it for you. Was she lying?
no, I don't think she was lying. I don't think she would come up here and lie. She also testified that it was at 8:30 at night, though, and that could not have been possible
And why is that?
because it was daytime when I walked into the store.
And it was the morning that you set out for San Diego, correct?
I'm really not sure exactly what time we set out for San Diego, but I know it was sometime that morning or maybe at 12 at the latest.
Now, after making the purchase and signing your name to the forms, or actually Donovan Gaudreau's name to the gun forms, you then took the guns, got into your car, and just immediately headed back for Beverly Hills, correct?
I believe so. I'm not really sure.
What do you remember now?
I remember that we were at the store and we got back to the Beverly Hills house when it was dark. Exactly what we did in between, I'm not sure.
Now, you've testified before these two juries that during the ride back, I believe you said that your brother was driving once again
Yes.
and that you loaded your gun.
Yeah, I loaded 2 shells in the gun.
Okay. Now, you have indicated that you never had to pull the plug out of the shotgun that you had, correct?
No, not mine.
You never had to.
No.
And so when you put in these 2 shotgun cartridges into your gun on the way home from San Diego, was that all that it would accommodate?
No, I assume it would accommodate 5 or 6, but I only loaded 2.
Why is that?
I didn't think that 2 shotgun shells, I mean, a shotgun would need any more than 2 shotgun shells if someone was coming at you. It just didn't seem like that was enough.
So you
I mean, with the stop in, I believe you can load 3. But you know, 2 definitely seemed like enough to me at the time.
So you didn't load it all the way to the maximum, you just put 2 in.
Yes.
And at some point, did you see your brother load his shotgun?
No, I did not.
Never saw that.
No.
When you got out of the car on that night, the 18th, you indicated that you took your gun out and you went to the house, correct?
Directly after I got home,
Right.
as soon as I got home, we had the conversation with my mother.
And after this conversation, you went back to the car.
Yes, and that's when I got the gun.
Your gun was loaded to the extent that you put 2 cartridges in it, correct?
Yes.
And did you see your brother unload his gun as well?
Unload his gun?
Did he take his gun out of the trunk?
I don't remember seeing that. I guess he did. I don't remember.
Did your brother go through the house with you?
No, he did not.
He went the other way, around the house to his guest house?
I don't remember. I know he didn't come with me back through the front door, though.
So as far as you know, you had your gun with 2 shells in it, 2 cartridges in it, and your brother was still outside.
I don't have a clear picture of my brother, either outside or inside or anywhere, but I know he wasn't next to me inside.
And then you went upstairs
Yes.
and you went to sleep that night in your room.
I went to sleep that night in my room, yes, at some point that night.
Did you lock the door behind you as you entered the house?
Yes.
So your brother did not enter the house.
He wasn't with me when I went up to my room, I know that.
Had you left the car open?
You mean
Unlocked?
unlocked?
Yes.
I don't remember.
Did Lyle maintain your keys at that point?
My usual custom was just to leave the keys inside the car, but I don't remember what I did that night.
So you don't know what your brother did with his gun. Is that what you're saying?
That's what I'm saying.
What happened after you got to your room that night?
Nothing happened. At some point I went to sleep.
No problems?
No,
No attacks?
no,
No yelling and screaming?
no.
Okay, the next day you woke up in the morning, I take it?
Yes,
That was Saturday morning, the 19th of August?
yes.
What did you do that day?
I went over to my brother's guest house as soon as
What time was it that you woke up?
I don't remember. It was a little bit later. I was exhausted and I had slept later than I wanted to. Maybe 9:30, 9:10.
And so you got up. What did you do when you got up?
I went to my brother's guest house.
Did you go down and have breakfast or anything in the main house?
No, I did not.
You went directly to your brother's guest house.
Yes.
Were you fully clothed?
I was dressed. I don't remember what I was wearing.
Do you remember wearing what you had worn the previous day to San Diego?
Previous day, I knew I wore shorts because I had changed in my brother's guest house that morning. I don't remember what I was wearing. I knew on the fishing trip I was wearing shorts, so I may very well have not changed.
Or the same thing that you had worn the previous day?
I don't remember.
Okay. You woke up between 9:30 and 10 in the morning. Then you went to your brother's guest house. Then what did you do?
Lau and I left.
Was he already awake?
I don't think so.
You had to wake him up.
I had to knock on his door, and he answered the door.
So he had his door locked,
Yes.
and you woke him up. And you had a conversation with him.
I don't remember. I remember leaving the house. I don't remember what Lau and I said. I assume we talked about leaving the house.
Did he invite you into his guest house?
I believe so.
So did you spend a time with him in the guest house?
I don't remember.
Do you remember what you discussed that day?
At that point in the guest house,
Yes.
I'm sure we discussed leaving the house. What else we discussed, I don't know.
And this discussion that you had with your brother about leaving the house, what was the substance of that discussion?
Leaving the house. I don't remember anything more about the discussion. I don't really remember the discussion, but I know we must have had the discussion because we then left the house.
Now, do you know you had the discussion because that's what your brother testified to?
I don't remember what my brother testified to about that, but I know we left the house soon after that, so I'm only assuming at this point.
Now, you were gone, I believe you indicated the whole day on Saturday, and you came back that night, correct?
No.
Why don't you tell these jurors what happened on Saturday then?
We got back to the house around 4 o'clock because of the fishing trip.
4 o'clock in the afternoon?
Yes.
And your parents were ready to go
Yeah.
on the fishing trip at that point?
Yeah, they were in the Sally Port. The front door was open, and they were, I guess, getting their things in the car when we pulled up.
Did your mother have a pack with her?
Yeah, she had 2 of them, actually.
Did she have clothing and food in the packs?
I don't know what she had in the packs.
Now, before you got home on Saturday, sir, you indicated that you left with your brother, what was it, shortly after 10 a.m., correct?
Yeah, right around there.
Okay, and where did the two of you go?
I know we went to the valley.
Where in the valley?
At one point, we stopped at the Topanga Mall. I know that. Because I know we ate something there. And then at one point, we went to the gun store that had the firing range next to it.
At what point did you go to the gun store in Van Nuys?
That was after the mall, so I just don't remember the times. But it was after we'd gone to the mall, so maybe 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock.
Now, what did you do at the mall?
I know we ate there. We talked. We just sort of were trying to delay so that we could be late for the fishing trip. And I believe at the mall is when I looked up in the phone book where the gun store was.
While you were in the mall, you looked in the phone book and you found a local gun store?
Yeah, I believe it was at the mall.
Now, you could have looked up in the phone book for other local stores after you went to the Big Five in Santa Monica to find a local store that you could purchase these guns, couldn't you?
Yeah, I didn't even have to look it up. I'm sure there are other sports stores around.
Now, from shortly after 10 o'clock until 2 o'clock, when you indicated that you went to the Van Nuys gun store, What did you do all during that time? Was that all spent at this mall?
Between what time and what time?
I believe you said you left the house shortly after 10 o'clock in the morning with your brother,
Yes,
correct? And at about 2 o'clock, you went to this Van Nuys gun store.
1, 2 o'clock, somewhere in there, I believe.
During this period of time, shortly after 10 and before you went to the Van Nuys gun store at, as you say now, 1 or 2, what did you do?
I know we were at the mall, and I know we ate there.
Did you look at Rolex watches on that day?
No, we did not.
Okay. Did you look for watches at all?
No,
Did you look at any stores at all while you were at the mall?
that we weren't concerned about what we were doing in the store and the mall. It was just some place to be, so we wouldn't have to be at home. And that's the only reason we went out that morning.
So you simply had something to eat.
I know we had something to eat. What else we did, I can't tell you.
You have no recollection of that at all?
I remember being in the mall, but I don't remember what we did. I'm sure we went in and out of stores just talking. I just don't know.
You did have a discussion about the guns you had purchased the night before, I take it.
We may have.
You don't remember that?
No.
I couldn't hear you.
No.
So why is it that you looked in the phone book for this gun store then?
We wanted to get, I wanted to get to a firing range because I wanted to know how to fire this gun. But Lyle had told me that he wasn't sure of these shells, whether they fit, what was the deal with the shells and the gun, whether they fired. So we decided to just go to a gun store and find out.
So then there was a discussion about the guns prior to your looking into this phone book. That'd be fair to say?
Yes.
And you wanted to be more accurate with your guns, and you wanted to make sure you had enough firepower in your guns. Is that right?
Check the compound question.
No, we wanted to make sure that the shells were the right shells for the gun in case we had to fire them.
Right?
And I wanted to make sure I knew how to fire them in case I fired them.
When you took your gun upstairs to your room on Friday night, did you read any of the paperwork that went along with the gun?
Check the sim stacks not known.
Rephrase the question.
Was there any paperwork in the box containing the gun that you purchased from San Diego?
I believe there was. I didn't take the box up to my room, though, but I believe there was paperwork that went along with the gun.
During this long 2.5 or 3 hour ride from San Diego to Los Angeles to Beverly Hills, did you take a look at the pamphlet inside of that box to determine how to use and operate this shotgun?
Objection, sim stacks not known.
Rephrase the question.
Mr. Menendez, at some point, did you have to open up the box and pull this pump shotgun out of the box while you were in the car and your brother was driving from San Diego to Beverly Hills?
Yes.
During that period of time, did you notice whether or not it had any paperwork in the box containing the gun?
I know it did down in San Diego at the store there because I remember seeing it. I assume it was still in the box when I took the gun out.
Okay, did you see it?
I don't remember seeing it.
So during this ride from San Diego that took about 2.5 or 3 hours, you never looked at the instructions on this for this gun?
I may have. I just don't remember it.
You may have.
I do not remember it.
So if you did, you would have learned how to operate this gun then.
Objection, calls for separation.
If I did, I guess I would have, yes.
Does that sound like something that you would do? If you didn't know how to use the gun and you were loading it up, do you think that you might want to find out how to use it?
Objection, calls for speculation.
Yes, it sounds like something I would want to do. I just don't remember it.
In loading the gun and putting the cartridges in the gun, did you fiddle with it at all? Did you move the slide or did you move the pump, or how did you examine the gun that you had purchased?
I know I had it in the front seat of the car with me. I guess I don't know.
You
I'm
guess?
quick to strike the answer on speculation.
Overrule the answer is no.
Now, what is it that you remember specifically about loading the guns? How did you do it?
Object to the foreman question assumes facts not known.
Why don't you specify when it was that you referred to?
Mr. Menendez, when you were in the car coming up from San Diego to Beverly Hills and your brother was driving, at some point, I take it, you reached back to the box containing a shotgun
Yes.
and you withdrew that gun from that box.
Yes.
And did you have to climb over the seat to do that?
I don't remember.
Now, did your brother have the ammunition on his person, or was the ammunition in the back seat?
It may have been in the hatchback. It may have been in just the back seat. It was somewhere in the car.
Were you sitting in the front passenger seat?
Yes.
Did you then have to go into the back seat to get ammunition?
I know it was somewhere behind me. I don't remember whether it was in the back seat or in the hatchback part.
At some point, you got that ammunition, though,
Yes.
and you broke open the box.
Yes, I took out 2 shells.
And what did you do?
I was looking at the gun and I put them in the gun.
And how did you do that? Would you describe what you did?
It was on the bottom of the gun. I now remember from when Deputy Van Horn testified. And I guess I pulled the pump once to get a shell in the chamber. I just don't remember what I do. I know I loaded it. I know I loaded 2 rounds. I don't remember
Okay.
exactly how.
Let's take it a step at a time. You had the shotgun in your hand, this pump shotgun. And
Yes.
you took out 2 cartridges, correct?
Yes.
And only 2?
I remember loading 2. I may have taken out 8. I don't know. But I know I loaded 2 in the gun.
What is the first thing that you did with that pump shotgun in order to load these shells into it, these cartridges into it?
What is the first thing I did with the shotgun?
Right, you're holding onto this shotgun. You have the ammunition with you. What did you do?
I just loaded the ammunition in the bottom of the gun.
There's some kind of a hole there that you just push it through?
Yes.
You indicated that you thought that you had pulled back the pump so that you can chamber one of the shotgun cartridges?
Yeah, I believe I did that. If I loaded the gun that way, I just don't remember. I know that I had loaded 2 shells, and you loaded from the bottom, so that's what I did.
How would you know to have done it in that fashion?
Well, because that's what the lady at the Big 5 did when she was explaining how to load the gun and how the gun works, and was taking it apart and showing it to us.
So then you were given a detailed lesson on how to load this gun at the Big 5 store in San Diego, correct?
Yes, I knew. She told us how to load it, definitely.
And she even took out the plug for you.
Yes.
And did she describe at that time that it could hold more cartridges if you take the plug out?
Yeah, I definitely remember her saying that.
Did she tell you that did she indicate how many it would hold once you withdrew the plug out of the gun itself?
My memory was that it held, my original memory when I was there, before Deputy Van Horn testified about it only holding 3, was that it could hold something like 5, and then it could hold something like 7 if you took out the plug. But I assume Deputy Van Horn knows what he's talking about, so I assume it could only hold 3.
Without removing the plug?
Yes.
Now, you indicated that you went to the store in Van Nuys, correct?
Yes.
That you wanted to find out if you had gotten the correct ammunition.
Yes.
And you drove over to this Van Nuys store
Yes.
and you spoke to the proprietor or a clerk there,
The man behind the desk.
and he told you that you should get buckshot. Is that right?
Yes.
And your brother was with you when you did that?
Yes.
What happened at that store?
We were talking about that we had these 2 guns and that we wanted it for basically home protection, I believe is what we told him. And that we had a bird shot, and whether bird shot was supposed to fit in that size gun or in that kind of gun, or what were you really supposed to use, since we hadn't discussed it with the lady at the Big 5. And that's when he explained it to us.
Now, you had indicated to him that you had bird shots, so you knew what kind of shots you had.
Yeah, we had the box.
But you took the box inside with you.
No,
No.
but we had the box.
So you read the information on the box?
Yes.
Went inside, and you asked if that would be good enough to kill somebody?
No. We asked if that was the kind of. We knew there were all different kinds of birdshot after going in the store, and I just don't remember exactly. I wish I could tell you more clearly, but I knew we had the birdshot, and we just weren't sure if birdshot was supposed to be used with this gun or which kind was supposed to be used with this gun. So we figured we'd just go to the store and ask him.
Now, the shells or the cartridges that you put in fit into that gun, correct?
Yes, they did.
12 gauge?
Yes.
So you knew it wasn't the wrong type of, at least the wrong size of ammunition.
I didn't know that. I knew they fit in the gun. I'd never loaded a gun like that before, so I didn't know how it was supposed to fit or anything of that sort.
Now, at the store, you and your brother were told that you should use buckshot. And was that purchased?
Yes, buckshot was purchased.
How many boxes?
1 box.
Who made that purchase?
Either my brother or I don't remember.
Was that also a cash purchase?
Yes.
Who pulled the cash out?
I don't remember.
Were you standing right there?
Yes.
Do you remember pulling money out of your pocket?
I don't have any memory of pulling money out of my pocket, no.
You do remember pulling the cash out of your pocket in San Diego, though?
No, I don't really remember that. I remember being at the cashier, and so I had to have had the money, but I don't specifically remember it.
Now, you didn't have this gold money clip on that day. You bought that on the 24th. Did you have a wallet that you carried your money with?
Facts not in evidence. Compound.
Did you have a money clip with you that day? The
No.
18th? Okay, did you have a wallet?
Yes.
Did you carry your cash in your wallet?
Yeah, I carried some cash in my wallet, yes.
Okay, and you had your cards in your wallet?
Cards.
Identification cards?
I didn't really have much, no. I mean, I didn't carry much in my wallet other than pictures and so on.
When you would leave for the day and take your wallet, are you saying that you wouldn't carry your identification in your wallet?
If I had my driver's license, I always kept that in my wallet. So I would carry that, and that would be my identification. But I guess I had my school ID. I don't remember. I know I had pictures in there. It had the plastic in the middle of it, and it was a fold-over wallet. But I didn't belong to any business or have any business cards or anything like that.
So when you would leave and go driving around in your car, you wouldn't take your license with you. Is that what you're saying?
No, I would. I'd have it in my wallet.
Okay. And this would be the Mr. Stevens license?
No, that would be my own license when I had it. The Richard Stevens license I kept in my room, and I only took that out when I was going someplace for a specific purpose.
Now, when you were, as you indicated, after you lost your license, you never asked the California DMV, or you never went into the DMV building to get a new license, correct?
You're asking answer.
After you lost your valid California license, would you carry around Mr. Stevens's, or actually the Stevens license with your photograph on it?
No, I wouldn't carry that around because I had no need for it unless I was going to a nightclub or for a specific thing. I certainly wasn't going to give that to a police officer.
Do you remember having your wallet with you on Saturday?
On Saturday?
Yes.
I don't specifically remember having my wallet with me, but I probably did.
At some point, the purchase was made. You don't remember who pulled the money out, either you or your brother, and you bought some ammunition, some buckshot at
Yes.
this Van Nuys store.
Yes.
And that was approximately 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Approximately.
What did you do after that?
We waited until we knew we had missed the fishing boat time, and then we went home.
Who was driving at that point?
Pretty much whenever Lau and I were together, my brother always drove.
Now, did you drive to the back of the house or the front of the house?
We drove to the front of the house.
Okay, and you could see your parents, I believe you said in the sally port?
I knew the door was open, and I guess they were coming back and forth from the car to the inside of the house, but I saw one of them there.
And they
I
were
think it
ready,
was my mother.
and they were ready to leave?
We were ready to leave. They were still there. We were surprised.
And you were scared at that point, weren't you?
We were scared of going on the trip, yes.
Now, you didn't stop and see your parents' car still there and then drive around the block or anything to wait till they left.
No, my parents had seen us. My mom, I believe it was my mom that was outside when we pulled up. And at that point, we just went right into the carport.
Okay. And you pulled up and you had a conversation with your mother?
Yeah, she was not happy that we were late, but she didn't make a big deal out of it. She just said, "Okay, now that you're here, let's go. Let's hurry."
That was the first time you had seen your parents that whole Saturday then, when you drove up and you saw them in the driveway area. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right.
You didn't see them in the morning.
No,
You and your brother left sometime shortly after 10 o'clock in the morning.
yeah, I believe it was right around there.
And you had no discussions with your parents up until the point that you arrived at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you saw at least your mother in the driveway area taking some packs to the car.
Objection, statement.
I didn't talk to my mother that morning until that time.
You had not seen her that whole day.
Exactly.
And you were with your brother that whole day.
Yes.
Do you recall playing tennis on Saturday?
No, I definitely know that we did not play tennis. I know someone says we did, but we didn't.
Now, when you saw your parents in the driveway at about 4 in the afternoon, did you immediately get into the car and then just drive off to this shark fishing trip?
Yeah, I didn't even. We went right from my car, and I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, I wanted to cover the gun up real quickly, and I went back to the hatchback because clearly I didn't want them to see it, and then we went directly to my dad's big Mercedes and left.
So you could see the shotguns in the back of your car.
If you opened up the car port, yes. The car hatchback.
Was the box still in the car?
I believe so.
Was your brother's box still in the car?
I don't remember.
So you didn't even have time to go into the main house that day?
No.
You indicated that there was someone that said that you were there that day playing tennis. Is that right?
No. There was nobody there playing tennis that I saw. I wasn't there playing tennis. So certainly wasn't playing tennis with me.
Did you indicate that somebody said you and your brother were playing tennis that day, but it's not true?
Yes.
You said that. Do you remember a man working on the pool equipment on Saturday while you and your brother were playing tennis and your mother and father were sitting out at the table?
I believe he said my brother, I, and somebody else, right?
Is that what you recall?
Back to all this is hearsay.
You
Excuse
recall that?
I recall your report that he said that, but that didn't happen.
Are you saying that this person who was at your house fixing the pool equipment is lying?
Yeah,
No.
object to the former question also.
Rephrase the question, please.
You indicated that you have now information that a man who worked on the pool equipment on Saturday indicated that you and your brother were there on Saturday, August 19th, playing tennis.
Your Honor, object to the former question. There's no proof that there is
Okay,
a.
counsel, let's not argue it. The objection is sustained. Rephrase the question, please.
Okay. Were you and your brother playing tennis during the day on Saturday on the 19th of August?
No.
Now, during this period of time, you and your brother were shaken in your boots, weren't you? You thought your parents were going to kill you.
During which period of time?
During these days that you've testified to, from
Yes, they were going to
Tuesday
kill us.
the 15th through Sunday the 20th.
No.
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 No what?
No, it wasn't Tuesday. It was Thursday. My dad didn't get home till Thursday.
So from Thursday the 17th.
Yes.
Now, you had already bought the shotguns. You had already, and that was on the 18th. You and your brother had already gone and to get more powerful ammunition from the Van Nuys gun store, and you had all of that in place, correct? By the 19th, the afternoon of the 19th of August.
In place? What do you
Yes, you had your guns loaded.
mean? I still had the 2 shells. I didn't load the buck, I guess it was.
Okay, and where was that
until the
buck?
20th. It was in the back of the car.
You immediately went with your parents in the Mercedes, and you went to Marina del Rey. Is that right?
Yeah, the harbor.
And you went on a shark fishing ride.
Yeah, it was a shark fishing expedition, I guess it was.
And would you describe for these juries what you remember about that ride?
The ride there,
Yes.
I remember the one thing that stands out in my mind is just the silence. Them not speaking to us and us not speaking to them.
Did you think that they might suspect that you and your brother had purchased these pump shotguns?
Objection on cost of speculation.
No, I wasn't thinking that at all. I thought they were suspecting that we were going to either go to the police or go tell someone about the situation, about what was happening.
Now, you have testified that you believed that your mother had magical powers and that she could read your mind, correct?
Yes,
So you were thinking that she could detect that you had bought those shotguns and you were about to kill her.
I wasn't thinking that at that time. During the past year, she somehow, in some way I didn't know at the time, knew everything that I was doing and pretty much every part of my day that I purposely was hiding from her. So I thought there was something fishy going on. Either she had hired an investigator or she just knew somehow. But that wasn't in my mind on the way to the fishing boat trip.
You didn't have a guilty conscience at that point about having bought these guns and about having bought the more powerful ammunition, knowing that you intended to use it on your parents and riding with them to this fishing trip. You had no guilty conscience about that?
Guilty conscience?
Yes.
I thought they were going to kill us on the fishing trip. I wasn't guilty about getting 2 shotguns, no.
Now, on this ride over, you said it was quiet. No discussion at all?
It was silence.
Then what happened?
And then we got there. I believe we got lost first, and then we got there.
Was there any discussion at all about the fishing trip or anything else between you and your brother and your parents?
That's the one thing that I do remember about how eerie it was in the car ride, that no one was speaking to each other, when normally if we would have had a blow up on Thursday to this degree and to this magnitude, there would be constant fights, they would be hitting each other, there would be a lot of problems, and nobody was saying a word to each other.
When you say they would be hitting each other, who are you referring to?
No, my parents.
They didn't fight among themselves, correct?
Oh yes, they fought among themselves.
So on Thursday, they were fighting among themselves?
No, they weren't fighting among themselves on Thursday, but they did in general in life.
I'm asking you what happened on the Saturday.
Nothing happened in the car ride to the trip. The one thing I remember is the silence.
And you testified just now that if your parents had been in a fight, they would be hitting each other. But there's been no
No.
evidence of that.
What I meant to say is that there would be hitting going on, that my father would have gotten out of belt, that things would have happened in the house, and there would have been a lot of arguing, a lot of fighting, and it would have been a horrible situation. And that's what I expected, but there was none of that.
So you went on this ride to Marina del Rey. At some point, you got to Marina del Rey and got out of the car.
Yes.
And then what did you do?
we got onto the boat. My mom she was planning on bringing 2 bags, and they told her that she could only bring 1, apparently. And so she brought 1 bag onto the boat.
She wanted to bring 2?
Yeah, it was a much smaller boat than apparently she had thought it was going to be.
Now, did the 2 of you and your brother, bring jackets along with you?
I don't remember. We may have.
And did your mother give you Dramamine to take as you got to the boat? Some kind of medicine to help you with seasickness?
I don't remember that, no, definitely. I would probably remember that.
And your mother, you all got onto the boat, correct?
Yes,
And Mr. Anderson testified here.
yes.
Did he demonstrate how to fish?
I don't remember. Maybe as the boat was just pulling away from the dock, but I know before Lau and I even get out of the harbor, we were up at the front of the boat.
Did he set up rigs for you? Fishing
Yes.
lines? And he caught some bait for you?
Yeah, that was long after we got out of the harbor.
Now, you and your brother went up to the front of the boat.
Yes.
Did you notice that your mother was sick?
She wasn't sick at that time.
At some point she got seasick?
At some point, I didn't notice it, but at some point she did.
At some point you noticed that she was in the cabin area?
At some point, I went back to use the restroom, and that's when I noticed it,
And what did you notice when you went into the cabin and you saw your mother?
that she wasn't feeling well.
Did she tell you she wasn't feeling well?
No, she didn't speak to me.
Didn't say a word to you?
She did not mention. I just noticed that she either had a headache or wasn't feeling that well, and I just went to the restroom. She didn't say anything to me.
As you went down there and you saw her, was she sleeping?
No,
Did she have her eyes open?
she was awake.
Did she have her eyes open?
I assume she had her eyes open. I remember her being awake.
Was she sitting up or lying down?
I believe she was sitting up on the, they had couch-like area downstairs to sit on. I think that's where she was sitting.
And looking at her, you could tell that she didn't feel well.
Yes.
So you used the restroom and then went back up.
Yes.
And you and your brother discussed what you would be doing the next day.
No. I told Lyle about Mom and what was happening in the back of the boat, but discuss what we were doing the next day.
Yeah, you and your brother discussed, you had already bought the shotguns, you had the necessary ammunition, and the next day, before your father left on Monday for his business trip, and before the maid came back on Monday, Flor Surya, you were going to make your move and kill your parents on Sunday. So you discussed that, didn't you?
No.
Objection, argumentative and content. Overruled.
I didn't know my father was leaving on a trip on Monday either.
You knew that Flor Surya would be back on Monday, correct?
I assumed she would have. Yes.
She was there for months, and she
Yeah.
stayed with you from Monday to Friday, isn't that correct?
Yes.
During that fishing trip, do you recall having any conversation with your parents on the boat?
Them to us?
Yes.
No. I remember a talk with Bob Anderson, the boat captain, about the shark that I guess my dad had caught. When my dad was talking to him about the size of the shark, and I remember him saying he wanted to catch a larger shark and something about that. But I went back up to the front of the boat soon after that.
And you went back to the back of the boat when your father caught the shark and you helped pull the shark in?
No,
No, that's not right?
I didn't help pull the shark in.
Did you go back to the back of the boat?
Yes.
When your father was pulling in the shark?
No, I don't remember that. I remember the shark there, and but I don't remember my father pulling in the shark.
Do you remember your brother going to the back of the boat as well?
Yes.
And do you remember your brother testifying that he didn't want to seem too suspicious, so you went back to the back of the boat when your father caught this shark?
Yeah, that was our attitude the entire weekend. We didn't want to make our parents think that we were purposely avoiding them, or we didn't want to talk to them, and that we'd either already told someone or were going to tell someone. We wanted to make it seem like Nothing was going on.
You wanted them to know, or you did not want them to know that you had purchased the shotguns, correct?
We certainly didn't want them to know that, definitely not.
After you had this trip, or during this trip, toward the end of the trip, was there ever any conversation between you and your parents that night?
While we were still on the trip?
Yes.
I don't remember any.
Okay. At some point, the boat returned to the marina,
Yes.
and you got off the boat,
Yes.
got into the car,
Yes.
and what was it about? What time was this?
Somewhere between 11 and 12, maybe 11:30.
11:30 at night?
Yeah.
And what happened next?
We drove back home.
Did you go get something to eat, or did you just go straight home?
We went straight home.
So you got home about what time? Beverly Hills.
I guess it's about 20 minutes away, so I guess we got home close to midnight.
Okay, now that night, as you're pulling up to your driveway, up to your house, the four of you, what happened?
What do you mean? We pulled up into the house and my parents went inside.
And what did you and your brother do?
We left at that point. I'm not sure whether or not we said we were going to leave or if we didn't, but at that point, we left.
Now, at that point, did you go straight from your father's Mercedes to your car?
No, I remember I went inside the house for a moment.
And what did you do inside?
I unlocked the study window after we had decided that we were going out.
You unlocked a window where?
In the study, one of the study window doors.
Is that at the front of the house?
Yeah, there are a double French doors at the front of the house.
So you unlocked one of those, and then what
Yeah.
happened?
And then we left.
Did your brother ever enter the house?
I don't know.
Was that the only thing you did inside the house that night?
I don't remember very clearly. I know I did that. I may have done something else. I don't remember, but I remember that we left that night. And I remember going to UCLA.
Okay, did you drive directly from Beverly Hills to UCLA, you and your brother?
I don't remember. I remember sitting on the stands in the field at UCLA, but I don't remember if we drove directly there.
You don't remember going anywhere else except to UCLA?
I just don't remember.
Did you make any phone calls that night upon returning from the shark fishing trip?
I may have.
You may have?
Mhm.
Who did you call?
What I'm saying is I don't remember what I did. I may have made phone calls. I can't imagine I made a whole bunch of phone calls, but I may have. And
Where would you have made those calls from?
Objection,
I-
request for speculation.
Overall.
I don't think I made them inside the house if I made any calls. So I guess it would have been outside the house,
Where?
either at UCLA, on the way to UCLA, assuming I made some calls. I just don't remember.
Do you remember stopping anywhere before you got to UCLA to make any phone calls?
No, I don't specifically remember that.
Once you got onto the field at UCLA, do you remember making any phone calls there?
No.
So you don't recall making any phone calls?
No, I don't recall what I did before I got to the field. I remember being at the field, but I don't recall what I did before I got to the field.
At the field, did you discuss the plan for the following day?
Yeah, we first we talked about what had happened on the fishing trip and what was going on and how scary this was. That, you know, I think Lyle said maybe nothing's going to happen, but we did believe something was because of how strange they were acting, and we just talked about how it was really weird what was going on. It was really eerie, and that I should stay away from the house the next day, and that Lyle should stay home and see if he can talk to them.
And how long did you stay at UCLA, at the field at UCLA?
I don't remember.
Which field were you on?
It was the track field. It had the stadium on the, I guess if you're facing the school, the stadium was on the right. And then I don't believe there's any other stadiums around the other three sides.
You don't recall how long you were there?
We talked there. I don't recall how long I was there. I mean, it couldn't have been more than 45 minutes at the most. I mean, but I don't remember.
And after having this talk with your brother on this field, what did you do?
I know we went back home.
Drove directly back home?
I think so.
Was your brother still driving?
I believe so.
Do you recall about when it was that you arrived back home in Beverly Hills?
No.
What did you do when you got home?
I checked the study door so we could get back in, which is why I unlocked it. And it was locked. So we rang the doorbell.
When did you remember about that study door?
It was my way in and out pretty much whenever I was in Beverly Hills. Because my mom didn't, whatever house I lived in, I liked to have an access inside the house because it was rare that I was able to get a key from my mom. And so I remember in the Calabasas house, I had the window in my bedroom that I could get to. And in the Beverly Hills house, I had the study window that I used all the time.
This Calabasas house, was that in 1988, the house you were living at?
Yeah, 87, 88.
Was that a two-story house?
Yes.
And was your bedroom up on the second story?
Yes.
And you would sneak in and out of your house by your window in your bedroom, correct? Is
No,
that what you just said?
I wouldn't use it often, but I'd use it whenever I couldn't get inside the house. I just remember to always keep my window. You had to specifically lock it from the inside, so I just never did. I just kept it closed so you could slide it back and forth.
And you use that as your entry and exit at the Calabasas house?
No, I normally use the front door, but whenever I couldn't get in the front door, I went and used the window.
Was that often you would sneak in and out of that window?
I wouldn't say it was often, and I wouldn't say it was sneaking either, but it was just something I used when my parents weren't home and the door was locked and I'd lock myself out, or if it was late at night and I was coming back and I didn't want to wake my parents up, I'd just go through the window.
Now, in Beverly Hills, would you unlock this door regularly? That's what you would do all the time?
Yeah, I normally kept it unlocked, but my mom had a habit of going around and locking all the doors before she went to sleep, so she would often lock it.
That night when you got home from UCLA after having come home from the fishing trip, you went to the door, the study door, and it was locked.
Yes.
And your brother had his guest house that he had a key to, I take it.
Yes.
And he had plenty of clothes back there.
That's where he
Correct.
lived. Yes.
And in fact, a couple nights earlier, you had borrowed some of his clothes, correct?
Yes.
Yet that night, probably after 1 o'clock, maybe closer to 2 o'clock in the morning, you rang the doorbell to your house,
Yes.
knowing that your parents were about to kill you. You were ringing the doorbell.
I had to get back inside the house.
Why did you have to get back in the house?
That's because that's where I was going to sleep that night. We did not want to sleep, both of us, in the guest house. We thought that would have looked very strange. We'd done it on Thursday for the obvious reasons that we had just had the fight with my parents. And at that point, I didn't care. But on Friday and Saturday, I wanted to sleep inside the main house. And I also believe, I believe we told my mother that we were leaving at that point and to go out. And so I assume she expected me back. I don't remember, but certainly I was going to knock or ring the doorbell.
Okay, let's take it a step at a time. You said that you had a conversation with your mother and you told her you were leaving.
I don't remember the conversation, but I don't believe we would have left the house at that point as soon as we got back from the fishing trip around midnight and just left the house. I'm sure we would have mentioned it to her, not my dad, that we were just going out for a bit and we'd be back.
You had testified earlier that your parents had already gone into the house and you and your brother went to the car, didn't even go in, or except you actually went into the house for a minute, right? To unlock the door.
Yeah, I don't remember if I did anything else inside the house, but I remember specifically unlocking the door.
And that's the only thing that you recalled.
No, I recall that I may have, not a conversation, but I may have said to my mom, we're leaving. I also said that before,
Where was that conversation?
as we were getting out of the car and going in the house.
As you were getting out of the car, you told your mom that you were going to go with your brother somewhere.
I don't specifically remember saying that, but I'm sure I did. That's all that I'm saying.
Why are you sure you did that?
Because I find it hard to believe that we would have just left the house that night without saying anything. I don't remember saying anything to my mother, but I believe I would have.
Do you remember your brother testifying that you didn't have to check in with your parents, you can go as you please, but on Sunday night, that was a special thing that you and your brother decided that you would tell your parents that you were going to go to the movies. So you didn't have to tell your parents where you were going. Isn't that correct?
Objection, compliment.
Sustained.
Did you have to tell your parents everywhere you went?
No, I didn't have to tell my parents at all where I was going. But that weekend was different. Things were not normal that weekend. It was very different from the blow up on Friday when I found out that my mother knew and they found out that we both knew and nothing was the same. And so we were playing by different rules at that point. We were letting them know on purpose where we were so they wouldn't think anything suspicious was going on, like Lyle and I going to the police or Lyle and I just running away.
So that's why you were gone the whole day on Friday. They didn't know where you were. And the whole day on Sunday, they didn't know where you were. But you wanted to check in with them and make sure they knew where you were at all points. Is that correct?
I wanted them to know where I was at most times during that weekend, yes.
And that's why you were gone, as you say, all day on Friday and all day on Saturday. And your parents didn't know where you were. Isn't that right?
I don't know. I don't know what my brother may have said to my mom. I don't know what. Apparently he knew that my dad had gone to work. So he must have had some kind of conversation with my mother, but I certainly didn't. And on Friday, our idea was just to get the guns. That was what we wanted to do on Friday.
And you were gone the entire day, probably 12 hours, gone from the house.
Somewhere in that neighborhood, 12 hours.
And this is during the period of time that you wanted to let your parents know exactly where you were so there would be no suspicion.
Yes, Mr. Graham.
Now, when you got home after you went to UCLA, you tried to get into the door that was now locked. You had a discussion with your brother about maybe going to his guest house
No,
to spend the night.
I don't believe so.
You wanted to go into the house, the main house.
Yes.
Did your brother say, why don't you don't wake him up, just come on back with me?
I don't remember.
Could he have said that?
I don't remember him saying that. I suppose he could have. I don't remember.
Did you have any discussion whatsoever about whether or not you should wake up your parents by ringing the doorbell?
I don't remember. I just remember that we did.
Now, you both stood there and rang the doorbell.
Yes.
Is that right? Your brother didn't go back to his guest house where he lived?
At some point he did.
Okay, so you're ringing the doorbell and you see your mother coming downstairs?
Yes.
What did you see?
I saw her coming out of the upstairs. I don't think I saw her coming out of the bedroom, but I saw her coming down the hall, coming down the stairs to open the door.
And she opened the door and let you in.
let both of us in.
Oh, your brother came in too.
Yes.
And then what did the two of you do, you and your brother?
Immediately, there was an argument with my mother. Immediately, she was angry that we didn't have a key to the house. And so we got into an argument. And then she said what she said to me. And then shortly after, the argument ended. That's what I remember.
You remember her saying that you should have had a key with you?
Yes.
Was she mad about being awakened in the middle of the night?
I don't remember.
You don't remember that?
No. I know her bedroom light was on, so I'm not sure if she was asleep. But she said that I should have had a key, or Lyle should have had a key. One of us should have had a key. So maybe she did say that. I don't remember. I specifically remember the key part.
When you first got to the house, did you notice that the lights were out in the house?
Yes.
And then you started ringing the doorbell, and then you saw lights go on?
No.
You never saw lights go on?
No. She was in her bedroom. The lights stayed off when she came out of her bedroom.
How did you see her if the lights were off?
Because the windows are everywhere. It's a 2-story foyer with a skylight on top. It's not pitch black. It's not a dark place. It's an open lighted type of foyer entry.
So you could see her coming down in the darkness then?
Yes.
Could you see her face? Was she a little upset that she was being awakened at that time?
I don't remember that.
But you could see, did you see her reaction as you saw her coming down the stairs, that she wasn't pleased with this, having to wake up in the middle of the night?
I don't remember that. I remember seeing her figure come down the stairs, but I don't remember any facial expression.
Okay, when is it that you first saw her facial expressions? As she approached the front doors.
Excuse me?
As she approached the front doors,
She
in the
opened
foyer.
She opened the door.
Did you look and say, uh-oh, she's not happy with us here?
I don't remember.
But you could see her. You could see her face.
I could see her. When she was coming down the stairs, I don't remember seeing any expression on her face.
Okay, and then she opened the doors for you.
Yes.
What happened then?
And then we went inside. Immediately after she opened the door, she started saying that we should have had a key, and why didn't we have a key, and this and that. I don't remember the exact words.
And after this conversation, well, you didn't mistake her for your father as she was coming down the stairs. You knew it was your mother, right?
Yes, I knew it was my mother.
Even in the darkness, you knew it was her?
Yes.
After she said you should have had the keys, open the doors for you, did she go back up to her room, go to sleep?
We had a little bit more of an argument than that. And then she went back up to sleep, yes.
And then what did you do?
I went outside with my brother to talk about what my mother had just said, because it was definitely, it was very ominous. And so I said, Lau, what are we going to do? Should I sleep in the main house tonight? Should I go to the guest house? He says, no. He wanted me to sleep in the main house. I said, I guess that's a good idea. And we talked again about what we were going to do the next morning.
Where did this conversation take place?
Outside of the house,
Where outside?
by my car.
In the front of the house.
Yes.
So your mother went back upstairs and you and your brother went back outside to talk.
Yes.
At that point, did you see your brother with a gun?
No.
No? What did you do after that?
I went upstairs to my room.
And where did you leave your brother?
I guess my brother went around to the guest house. All I remember is going upstairs to my room.
Did you lock the door behind you?
Yes.
So you never saw your brother inside the main house that night?
He was inside the main house when we had the argument with my mother, and she said the things that she said. But I don't think he came back into the main house with me afterwards.
So you went up to your room, correct?
Yes.
And what did you do at that point?
I locked the door.
Then what?
I remember waiting around the left-hand window, looking out over the guest house, I wanted to be in the guest house, but we didn't want it to look that way. So I stayed in my bedroom and looked out toward the guest house.
Now, do you have windows in your bedroom that you could climb out of?
No.
No, they're too small.
No, you can climb out of them, but it's like 25 feet above the ground.
They're sliding windows.
No, they're opening windows. I think they open. I'm not sure which way they open.
Have you ever climbed out of those windows before?
No.
Okay, so you lock your door to your bedroom,
Yes.
and what do?
What do I do? Well, the next thing I remember is that my dad was pounding on the door.
So within how many seconds or minutes did this happen?
Within a few minutes.
And is your father yelling at
Yes.
that point? What was he yelling?
He was telling me to open up the goddamn door. He was pounding on it. He was pounding on it harder than he was on Thursday. He was yelling.
Even harder than he did on Thursday.
Yeah, I specifically remember the intensity of it, and I was not going to open that door. These thoughts were going through my mind.
And what did you do?
I went and got my gun, and I just sat on the bed, and I was just waiting for him to break it down.
So you had that shotgun with you,
It was under the ledge of my bed.
and you picked it up off of the ledge, and you sat on your bed with it.
Yes, with it across my legs.
How long was your father at the door to your room, trying to get in?
I don't remember. It seemed like a long time. A lot of thoughts went through my mind. A lot of thoughts were just rushing into me, and I didn't know what I was going to do, but it just seemed like a long time. It may have only been 2 minutes. It may have been only a minute, but it seemed like a long time.
Okay, so did he first knock on the door and say, "Let me in"?
No.
He immediately started banging on the door?
Yes.
Was he banging with his hand?
I assume so.
And was he cussing at you?
He was telling me to open up the goddamn door. That was the expression he used a lot.
Okay, and how many times did he say that?
I don't remember.
Did he yell it?
Yes.
Did he ever kick the door?
I don't remember.
And so he stood there and had this huge yelling fit and at the door there for a couple of minutes. And you sat on the other side of the door with your shotgun.
I sat on the other side of the room on my bed with the
Okay.
shotgun.
Did he keep repeating the same thing?
I don't remember. The main thing I remember was him pounding on with his fist and yelling me to open up the door. I was just scrambling with all these different thoughts in my mind. That's why I don't remember exactly what he said.
Did you ever answer him?
No, I never said a word.
And at some point, he just went back to sleep.
Objection or incest.
I don't know what he did at that point. I wasn't sure if he was waiting on the other side of the door. I don't remember hearing footsteps leave, which I did hear coming to the door. But I just stayed in my bed, and long after he left.
So at some point, he just wasn't yelling or saying anything to you. He stopped knocking.
Well, at some point he said that I was going to have to come out of that room tomorrow, but exactly what he did after that, I don't know.
But you never heard from him again that night.
No.
And did you have a phone in your room?
Yes.
What were the last four numbers to that phone? Do you remember?
Either 0495 or 0594. I get them all numbers confused.
Okay. And so you had your own phone, correct?
Yes.
And did your brother have his own phone?
He had a phone in the guest house, yes.
Okay. And your mother, they had the main phone, the 0052 number?
Yes.
Now, there's been testimony that the three lines would ring on all of the phones. Is that correct?
No.
Okay. How many phones were at the house?
Actual individual telephones?
Yes.
I can't even tell you. I had one in my bedroom. I guess I know they had at least two in their bedroom. I know there was one downstairs in the den. There was one in the kitchen. And what I mean by those phones, and I believe one of hers in her bedroom, they had the conference lines, the 3 different lines.
Which ones had the conference lines?
I believe there was one in my father's bathroom that had that. There was one in the den that had that. There was one in the kitchen that had that. I don't know if there was any in the foyer that had that. And I believe each of the individual bedrooms upstairs had their own phone. But I can't be specific about that.
There were a lot of phones in the house.
Yes.
And the ones that had conference lines were in the den and the kitchen and where else?
I believe my father's bathroom. A lot of the phones had these. I'm not real good with phones, but they had a two-line system. The big conference ones, they were black and they hung on the wall, and they had 3 buttons for the 3 different lines. So you could call out on any line on the phone, and it could ring on any line. And then there were the ones that were just the individual phone, and then there was another part that you'd push down one or you'd push down the other, and it would determine what line you were on, but it would ring. So I'm not sure which phones had which.
In other words, if you were in the den and you wanted to make a call out, you could make a call on any one of the 3 lines that you've indicated, the 0052, the 0495, or the 0594.
Yes.
Now, with respect to your brother's phone in the guest house, was that a single line? Or did that have a conference?
I don't remember.
Do you recall how long your brother had his personal phone in his guest house?
I don't remember.
Now, was his phone either the 0495 or the 0594 line?
Yeah, it was either one of those because the main house was 0052, I believe, or 0025.
And you and your brother had the 0495 and the 0594.
Yes.
Correct. So then if a call came into your brother's guest house, the phone would ring in the den and the kitchen and your father's bathroom?
If the call came into my brother's guest house,
Yes.
I don't believe it would ring on my line. I know it rang in my parents' bedroom. I know it rang in the den. I know it rang in the kitchen. Obviously, it rang in his room. There may have been a phone up by the pool. May have rang there. You would hear it all over the house because suddenly all kinds of phones would jump alive.
If your brother were to get a call in his guest house, it would ring in his guest house as well as on these conference lines, all the phones that had these conference lines, correct?
Yes.
I mean, would it ring audibly on those, or would it just flash?
No, it would ring.
Okay.
It would flash too.
So if your brother said that he was home all day Sunday and a phone call came into him from his friend Perry Berman, that phone would have rang in his room, in his bedroom, correct?
If it came in on his line,
Right.
certainly it would have rung in his bedroom.
Did he have any other lines in his bedroom besides his own personal line?
I don't remember. He may have had the main line, but I just don't know. I didn't spend a whole lot of time in the upstairs of his bedroom, so I don't know what lines he had.
So he may have very well had a conference phone as well.
I don't think he had one of those black conference phones, but he may have had a phone with 2 lines on it. I just don't know.
When you say 2 lines, what would the 2 lines be?
There was a box that had, I believe it was black or beige buttons that would push from line 1 to line 2. But again, it was so long ago.
This would be a good place to stop, Aaron.
It's noon. We'll be in recess until 1:30. Please don't discuss this case with anyone. Don't form any final opinions about it. We'll resume at 1:30.
Skating for over 45 years has taken a toll on my body. I take Qunol turmeric because it helps with healthy joints and inflammation support. Why Qunol? It has superior absorption compared to regular turmeric. Qunol, the brand I trust.
Mr. Menendez, cross-examination this morning, I believe you stated that you weren't sure whether you had said that you had gone to the Santa Monica Big Five store. Is that right?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you as well right now.
Did you testify this morning that you didn't recall referring to the Big Five store in Santa Monica?
No, I did refer to it.
You did. And in fact, your brother had testified that you had been to the Big Five store in Santa Monica. Isn't that correct?
If he did, he did. I testified to that.
Do you recall the testimony which occurred on September 27th? Questions asked by your lawyer, Mrs. Abramson.
What day is September 27th?
It was a Monday. Question was like this. Now, on Friday, did you hear your brother testify that you went with him to a gun store, a Big Five in Santa Monica? Your answer, yeah. And inquire about buying handguns? Your answer, yes. And were you told that there was a 2-week waiting period? Your answer, yes. Is that true? Yes. Did you do that? Yes. Do you remember that testimony?
Not specifically, but that's roughly correct.
And do you remember the testimony from last Friday, October 1st, regarding the Big Five store in Santa Monica? Question was asked of you with respect to this Big Five store in Santa Monica. And the question was, so was that the closest Big Five? Your answer, closest Big Five that I knew of. Do you remember testifying in that way?
Not specifically, but that is also true.
Was that the closest one that you knew of? You didn't know about the one in Beverly Hills?
No. If I had known about the one in Beverly Hills, maybe I would have gone to that one.
And the question was asked at page 16,490.
Overruled.
Mr. Menendez, did you truly go to the Santa Monica Big Five store on the morning of August 18th to buy these handguns? Your answer, definitely. Without a doubt, I did.
Yes.
Remember that? Now, Mr. Menendez, we were talking about Saturday night after you had been to the fishing trip, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you had been to UCLA and you came home.
Yes.
And you and brother got out of the car and you tried the door and you couldn't get in through the door, so you had to ring the doorbell.
Actually, I went to the side of the house where I left the den door open, which was now locked.
Right, that
And
door
then
was
I
locked.
tried the doorbell.
You didn't go to the front door first.
No.
Okay, so after that, you went to the front door, tried that door.
Yes.
It was locked.
Yes.
You rang the doorbell
Yes.
and your mother came down.
Yes.
Now, you said that you didn't directly go into the house, but that you had a conversation with your brother, then went into the house, correct? Or did you go directly into the house after you talked to your mother at the front door?
Overruled.
And you confused me. What happened was we rang the doorbell. My mother came down. We had the argument with my mother in which she told me what she told me.
Right.
And then after that, Lon and I went outside and talked.
Okay.
Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, you went outside and talked, and then you decided, in your conversation with your brother, you decided that you would go into your room and he would go to the guest room so it wouldn't be suspicious.
Yes. Roughly, that's right.
You went into the house and you said you locked the door.
To my bedroom.
How about to the front doors?
No, I didn't bother with that. I closed the door.
Did
Yes. But just my bedroom door.
did your brother go into the house with you and go out the back?
Like I said, I don't remember.
Okay. In any event, you went in the front doors and then you went up to your bedroom and locked your bedroom door,
Yes.
correct? And what did you say happened after that?
Overruled.
I was waiting at my window, just sort of looking toward the guest house where Lyle was, because I really wanted to be there.
Right.
And then my dad came to my bedroom door,
Then what happened?
and then
Objection, asked and answered.
he was pounding at the door, telling me to open up the door. And I quickly ran and got my gun and sat on my bed.
Isn't it true, sir, that you were gone on Saturday? You went to this gun store in Van Nuys so you could shoot at the range.
Yeah,
Correct?
we weren't able to, but I wanted to do that.
And then when you got home from that afternoon's or that day's excursion, your mother and father were leaving for the fishing trip, correct?
When we got back home at 4, yeah.
And I believe you said that you went to get a jacket from your car and the guns were still in the car, correct?
I don't remember if I got a jacket, but I may have. My gun was in the car.
How did your gun get into your bedroom that night?
I carried it up to my bedroom.
When did you do that?
Well, after my talk with my brother, when I went back up to my room, I brought my gun back up.
Oh, that's when you did that.
Yes. I had the gun in a duffel bag, a tennis duffel bag, and I would carry it back and forth.
Back and forth from where?
My bedroom to my car.
So you had a duffel bag that was big enough to accommodate this pump shotgun?
I had many of them.
So when was it? Was it after the conversation that you had with your brother? After your mother came down to let you in, that you went to get your gun? Is that what you're saying?
After the conversation with my brother out front, yes, when he said that I should sleep in my bedroom that night.
Now, did he get his gun at the same time you were getting your gun?
I don't believe his gun was in the car.
I believe you testified that you were going to go target shooting that day?
Yeah, I wanted to do that. That's why I brought my gun.
Did you have to get that gun from your room that day? On Saturday morning?
Excuse me? Yes.
And you knew that you wanted to go target shooting, but you didn't tell your brother anything about that?
Well, on the night before, we had talked about certain things, but that night, I'm confusing the nights here. We're talking about Friday night, Saturday morning. Yes, I knew that I wanted to go target shooting.
And that morning, you went up to your room and you got your gun. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you discuss this with your brother?
No, I did not.
So he had no idea that you wanted to go target shooting?
I don't remember discussing with my brother, no.
Was there a discussion that you and he had regarding getting more powerful ammunition?
No. There was a discussion about whether that ammunition fit inside the gun, but we had no discussion about more powerful ammunition.
You loaded your gun, correct? You knew that ammunition fit within that gun.
The bird shot ammunition? Yes.
So you had no question as to whether that fit within the gun.
Well, no, I didn't have any question about whether it could fit inside the gun, whether it was the right ammunition to be fired from that gun. I just didn't know. And Lyle was concerned about that.
And did that conversation occur before you set out on the Saturday morning?
I don't remember whether that conversation took place on Friday night after we found out about the fishing trip, or Saturday morning before we left the house, or Saturday at the mall. I don't remember when that conversation took place.
Okay, after the what happened on Saturday night, you slept in your own room,
Yes.
and your brother slept in the guest house,
Yes.
and you were starting to testify as to what happened on Sunday morning.
Okay.
What happened?
Saturday morning, when I got up, I went.
Actually, what we're talking about is now Sunday.
All right,
morning.
Sunday morning. I'm sorry. Sunday morning. All right, this was after my fight with my dad in my bedroom. I went up and to the guest house where my brother was, because I wanted to tell him what happened the night before with my dad.
What time was that?
That was early. It may have been 8 o'clock, 7:30, 8 o'clock, 8:15.
Now, did you crawl out of a window?
No, I went out the front door of my bedroom.
Did you take your gun with you?
No, I did not.
You were in fear for your life, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Did you crack that door open and try to listen to see if your dad was coming?
I looked underneath the door and I tried to listen outside the door, but I really didn't believe that he was waiting outside my door all night.
Why not?
It just, I thought he might, and so I listened, but I thought that he wouldn't have done that
Why?
because he told me I was going to have to come out of that room the next morning. And so
It was then the next morning that you woke up,
yes,
but you didn't believe that he was waiting there for you.
I was certainly hoping that he wasn't, but I didn't have a high belief that he was.
And what did you do?
I went over to the guest house.
And this was about 8 o'clock in the morning?
Yes.
Did you run to the guest house?
No, I wouldn't have run anywhere. I would have walked very slowly, very softly,
You'd walk very slowly.
very softly.
Were you tiptoeing?
No.
Did you have socks on?
No, I had my shoes on.
Were you putting your body up against the wall and kind of making sure that no one would see you by kind of sliding across the wall here?
No, I just
No?
wanted to get out of the house without anyone knowing I was getting out of the house. I wasn't doing anything that would have looked suspicious if they had seen me.
Okay, did you look all around you to make sure no one was peeking at you?
Yes.
And you went directly from your house, the main house, to the backyard and then to the guest house?
Yes.
And was the door locked when you got there?
To the guest house?
Yes.
Yes, it was.
So you had to bang on the door?
Yes.
Did you ring the doorbell?
There was no doorbell to the guest house.
Did your brother come downstairs and open up the door for you?
No, I'm talking about the door to on top of the stairs. There's a wooden door that separates the stairs from the two rooms.
Now, is there access from the lower level of the guest house in the interior to the upper level?
Is there access?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. But there's, I take it, another access by going up the stairs and going directly to the second level. Is that what you're saying?
I'm misunderstanding what you're saying about access.
Okay. The question I had is whether you had gone to the guest house.
Yes, I did.
And did you go to the door on the first floor or the door on the second floor?
I knocked on the door on the second floor.
So you went, did you first get to the door on the first floor?
I went through that door.
Okay. And it was unlocked.
Yes.
And then went upstairs.
Yes.
And did you try that door that led into the two rooms that are upstairs?
Yes.
Was that door locked?
That door was locked.
Okay, so you knocked on that door.
Yes.
What happened?
And my brother came to open up the door.
Had he just awakened?
It actually calls for stuff, yeah.
Was he in his pajamas?
My brother didn't wear pajamas. I don't remember what he was wearing.
Did he have his clothes on?
He had some clothes on, yes.
Did he have street clothes on?
I don't remember what he was wearing. I know he wasn't naked, but I don't remember what he was wearing.
At some point you had a conversation with him.
Yes, I told him about what had happened with my father the night before.
Then what?
And then I told him I was leaving because that was the idea.
What was the idea?
For him to stay home and sort of try to mingle with my parents to find out what was happening and for me to stay away from the house.
Now, when was that plan hatched?
That was thought of at UCLA, I believe.
You thought that you would leave Sunday
Yes,
and that he would stay.
exactly.
And why is that?
For several reasons. One, because we didn't think they'd do anything if we were apart. And two, so that Lyle could sort of try to gauge how they were feeling, whether they were really going to kill us or whether they were just angry or what sort of mood they were in, hoping that we could learn something about it.
Now, you indicated that you and your brother had discussed the situation and you didn't believe that you would be killed by yourself, correct? You would probably be together when they killed you.
Yes.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you testified earlier that the person at the Big Five store in Santa Monica had said that you had a 2-week wait and that they had to do some research on your background, correct?
I believe that was the gist of the conversation. The 2-week wait is what really stands out of my mind. But I believe that was the gist of it.
So at that point, you knew that you had to have some kind of ID so that they could check your background, correct?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. Now, you were in Santa Monica at the time, and you were fairly close to your house in Beverly Hills. You knew you had your fake ID of Mr. Stevens at your house. You knew your father was not at home. You knew your mother was there and the maid was there. Could you have gone back to your house to get your ID, gone into the house by yourself with Lyle, your brother, waiting for you outside without any risk to your being killed by your mother?
Yes.
You could have done that.
Mhm.
So you knew, is that yes?
Yes.
You knew you needed ID.
Not to buy shotguns, but to buy handguns. I knew I needed ID.
You didn't think you needed any kind of ID to buy guns?
No, I really hadn't thought about it. The man said that what he could buy over the counter. I remember that there were I believe there were crossbows. I believe there were shotguns. There were rifles. There were all different types of weapons. And he said these we could buy over the counter, but a handgun he said we could not buy over the counter, and they needed to background check. I don't know. I guess it didn't go through my mind that I needed ID. I don't remember him saying I did.
And you got up in the morning on Sunday morning, the 20th of August. You went into your brother's room, had a conversation with him, correct?
Yes.
And what did you do?
At that point, I left.
Okay. You had decided, or you had discussed earlier, that you would leave for the entire day and that he would stay home.
Yes. I believe I told him at that point, though, that I'd check back with him early afternoon
Where was your car parked on that occasion?
in the front of the house.
So what time was it that you left that morning?
I suppose sometime between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning.
And where did you go?
I went over to the church in Beverly Hills.
How long did you stay there?
20 minutes, maybe 15.
And then where'd you go?
And then I just drove around for a while at that point. I was doing a lot of thinking. And I remember at one point I went over to Melrose Street so that I could sort of walk around, but all the shops were not open. So I think I went to Westwood at that point.
And you got to Westwood when?
Sometime after that, I don't remember the time, maybe 10 o'clock, 10:30.
What did you do there?
I know I had some sort of a breakfast. I wasn't really eating much, but I remember I had some orange juice. I don't really remember. I sat down though at some place.
Where was that?
I don't remember the restaurant. And that it was in Westwood, I believe, though. I'm really sure.
You have a pretty good memory about these days, don't you?
Not particularly. I wish I had a better one.
Well, when your attorney was questioning you, you didn't seem to have a lapse of memory.
Sustained.
So you went to Westwood at about 10 o'clock and you went to eat something.
I'm not sure if it was 10 o'clock, 10:30, 11, but at some time around there, I did go to eat something.
Was anyone with you?
No.
Where'd you go then?
At that point, afterwards, I know I went back to the house sometime between 12 and 1 o'clock, I believe it was.
What did you do between 10:30 and 12 or 1?
I don't remember. I believe I stayed in Westwood. I'm not sure what exactly I did.
So you returned to the Beverly Hills mansion between 12 and 1, and did you go to the back of the house?
Yeah, I parked in the back at that point.
And what did you do then?
I went up to the guest house.
Was your brother in the guest house?
Yes, he was.
Where was he?
Exactly?
Yes.
He was in the front room.
On the bottom floor?
No, on the top floor.
What was he doing?
I don't remember.
What happened when you got back home?
I asked him what had happened with the talk between Mom and Dad.
What happened?
Oh, and he said that he hadn't gone over to the main house. And I was a little stunned at that. And I said, Lal, I understand you don't want to go over there. But I was telling him that he had to go over there, that I wasn't going over there, and that I really didn't care how scary the situation was. He needed to find out what was going on. And he said, okay, he would. And I told him that I'd be back later. I think he gave me a time to be back. I don't exactly remember.
You directed that your brother go into the house to size up the situation?
I demanded.
Demanded it?
Yeah.
You told him you don't care if he's scared. You get over there and go in there.
I told him it's something he had to do. I wasn't going over there, and somebody had to go over there. And he needed to have the conversation with Mom and Dad to understand what was going on, because it was a scary situation at that point. And he was reluctant, but he said he would.
When you were there, did you ever think about maybe calling to the main house and having a conversation on the phone?
I don't know if I thought about it.
Could have done that.
I didn't do that, but I don't know
Could
if I
have.
thought about it.
Your brother had the shotgun in his room at this time?
I believe so. I don't know.
You didn't see it?
No.
So at some point, you decided that you were going to leave after demanding that your brother go into the house sometime during that afternoon.
Yes.
And you once again left
Yes.
from the alleyway?
Yes.
And how long was it that you stayed there on that occasion?
I don't remember. Not less than an hour, but I don't remember how long I stayed there.
Did any phone calls come in on your brother's phone?
Not that I remember.
Were any calls made from the phone when you were there?
Not that I remember.
After you left, after spending about an hour with your brother, where did you go?
At that point, I left and I went back to Westwood.
Where did you go?
If I remember exactly, I believe I went to Mrs. Garcia. It's a little Mexican taco type of place near an alley in Westwood. And that I remember because I stayed there for a little bit.
You had something to eat there?
Yes.
Was anyone with you?
No one was with me the entire day.
You liked Westwood, I take it.
Yeah, I went there often.
Mm-hmm. And after having your lunch, what did you do?
I'm not exactly sure. I believe I went toward the valley, but I was just sort of wanting to waste time, and I really drove around a lot. I know at some point later that evening I was on, I believe it's Pacific Coast Highway, near the beach. I remember sitting on my car watching the sunset, but I don't exactly remember what I did in between there.
Watching the sunset on which street?
Pacific Coast Highway.
PCH. Which beach would that have been?
I believe it was Malibu. It was not Zuma, and it wasn't Santa Monica. I believe it was the one in between there, closer to Zuma.
When you wanted to get away and just think about things, would you go to the beach area?
Sometimes I would. Sometimes I'd just go to the beach, put down a towel, and watch the sunset.
Would Malibu be one of your favorite spots, or would it be Santa Monica Beach, or what?
Often I'd go to, when I lived in Calabasas, I was closer to a beach called Zuma, but sometimes I went to Santa Monica.
And you were familiar with the valley area because you lived in Calabasas?
I wasn't highly familiar with it, but I was familiar with the part of the side of the 101, more of the Calabasas Woodland Hills area.
Or you would spend a lot of time in Westwood. There's a lot to do in Westwood as well, correct?
Yes.
So on Friday, when you went to buy these shotguns, there were a lot of places around home that you could have gone to stay out the whole day so you'd be away from your mother. That'd be fair to say?
Yeah, there are a lot of places we could have gone to stay away from the house.
Gone to the valley, gone to the beach in Santa Monica or Malibu.
Mhm.
Is that right?
Yes.
And could have gone to one of the 100 gun stores that were within a 10-mile radius of your house.
Objection, ask the answer.
Yes, we could have.
Yet you drove 2.5 to 3 hours to San Diego to buy the shotguns.
Objection, argument.
No, that's not what we did.
Did you buy shotguns in San Diego,
We
sir?
bought shotguns in San Diego, but that's not why we drove there.
Now, you recall seeing a sunset in Malibu on the night of Sunday, the 20th of August?
Yes, I believe it was Malibu.
And you were by yourself.
Yes.
And after seeing that sun go down, what did you do?
At some point, I made my way back to the house.
And what time was it that you arrived back at the Beverly Hills house?
At some point between 9 and 10. I think it was more closer to 9:30. I know it was way later than Lyle had asked me to be back.
When did your brother ask you to be back?
When I was at the guest house.
And he told you to be back at what time?
I'm not quite sure. I think it was sometime between 7 and 8 or 8 o'clock. I just don't remember the exact time, but I know I was back much later than he had asked me to be back.
Did you have a watch on that day?
No,
You did not.
no.
Did you know what time it was? I mean, you're seeing the sun go down in the summer. Did you think, I'm late, I should be over home so that I could see my brother?
I wasn't thinking about that when I was thinking. I was thinking about other things. But I had a clock in my car.
Were you in your car when you were watching the sunset?
No, I was on the hood of my car, just sitting on it.
Now, you had told your brother, demanded that he go into the house where he could be killed, and he asked you to be back at a certain time, and you just kind of forgot about your brother.
No, I didn't forget about it at all. What I was thinking about was what had happened and how basically it was my fault that all these things had happened. And I was thinking that I also didn't want to be back at the house. And I just stalled until I got there too late.
At that point, you didn't really care what was happening to your brother?
I definitely cared what was happening to my brother, but I didn't want to be back there.
You feared for your own safety over the safety of your brother?
I know I wouldn't put it that way.
He asked you, or he told you to be back at a certain time between 7 and 8, and you came back late.
Yes.
So are you saying that you just didn't want, you knew what the time was, but you didn't want to go back?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
So you're saying that you really didn't care what happened to your brother?
No, I cared what happened to my brother, and I should have gone back at 8, but I didn't. I didn't want to go back to the house, and I just didn't want to be there.
In fact, you recall talking to Detective Zoller on September 17th, 1989,
Yes, I do.
and telling him that when you left that day to go to the movies, that your mother and father were watching television on the couch?
I don't remember if I said that. I may have.
And you had indicated that you went to go see License to Kill.
If you could show me where I said these things, I could tell you much more
Do you
clearly.
recall making that statement first?
On the 17th?
Yes.
Not individually, no.
So what time was it that you arrived home then?
Sometime between 9 and 10 o'clock.
And what happened when you arrived home?
I went over toward the guest house.
Did you drive to the back of the house or the front of the house?
No, I parked in front.
Did you go through the main house?
No, I didn't.
Why not?
Because I wanted to talk to my brother before I met up with my parents.
So you went around the side
The right side.
To your brother's guest house,
Yes.
and your brother was there,
Yes.
and what happened?
And he told me what had happened that day at the house. He told me about the frightening things that had happened, and that basically that. And I told him I didn't want to be in the house after that.
Did he tell you that you were late, that you were supposed to be there to go to the movies at 8 o'clock?
Yeah, he had asked me why I wasn't there early.
What did you tell him?
I told him that I didn't want to be back at the house, and I don't remember exactly what I told him.
Now, you were gone that whole day without letting your mother and father know where you were, correct?
Yes.
And when you got back, I believe you testified earlier that you had no rule that required you to tell your parents where you were going.
In
Correct.
general, I had no rule. That weekend was a little bit different, but in general, I did not have any rule.
So the rule was you can be gone all day and not tell them where you were. But with respect to the movie, you had to tell them where you were going.
No, that's not right.
Okay. That's what you did, though.
Yeah, I didn't want to tell him we were going to the movies. I just wanted to get out of the house. And Lyle said, no, let's just give them a reason for going out of the house so they don't think that it's suspicious. As long as Lyle was home all day, I figured it didn't matter if I was. But that's what happened.
Why was that?
Why was what?
It didn't matter that you weren't home all day.
Because Lyle was there.
What difference does that make?
Well, the whole reason I wanted to let them know where I was, or wanted them to know where I was at different points over the days, is so that they wouldn't think I was down at the police station, or they wouldn't think that I was telling anyone what was going on.
But you were gone all day Friday, all day Saturday, and you never told them where you were going, and you were gone all day Sunday as well and never told them where you were going, correct?
I was, yes.
Right. Isn't that right?
Yes.
But you wanted to tell them where you were going on Sunday night.
I didn't specifically want to, but Lyle did, and it was a good idea. I mean, I understood why he wanted to do it.
Because that would bring you back into the house.
No, so that would make them think, okay, we were hoping. What Lyle had told me that day, I felt extremely uncomfortable with. What Lyle had told me that day, and from what I had been feeling over that weekend, just made me think that something was going to happen. And I didn't want them to think that we were leaving the house again and maybe going to talk to someone.
You had not been in the house that whole Sunday. You could have simply gone out the back door and gone to the movies. They would never have known where you were that day, right?
Yeah, we could have left without telling them.
But to get back into the house, to have an excuse for why you were back in the house and why you then burst in on your parents, you came up with a story about having to tell them you were going to the movies. Correct?
No, that's not correct.
You indicated that after having the conversation with your brother, you both went into the main house, correct?
Yes.
And you didn't want to tell your parents where you were going, but your brother wanted to tell them where you were going, that is, to the movies.
Yes.
And this was about 9:30?
It was maybe 10 minutes after I got home.
So you said you got home about 9:30, so it would have been about 9:40.
If I got home exactly at 9:30, then we would have gone in the house roughly at 9:40.
Well, the movie was just about over, correct?
Oh, we weren't going to the movie, but we were just telling them that because we just wanted to leave the house.
You were going to go to the Santa Monica Civic, to the
Yes.
Taste of LA?
Mhm.
Why didn't you just say you were going to go to the Taste of LA?
I wasn't sure what was going to happen with that. It didn't, all these things didn't enter my mind. I just wanted to get out of the house. Any excuse to get out of the house, any excuse to tell them we were going out of the house was fine with me. And that's, I can't tell you why we didn't make this choice or that choice.
Now, you first testified that you were going to tell your parents that you were going to go to the movies, but now you're saying you really weren't going to go to the movies. Is that right?
No, but we were always going to tell my parents when we were headed toward the main house that we were going to go to the movies. We never were going to go to the movies, but that's what we were going to tell them.
Now, you both went into the house from the back door somewhere, is that right?
Yes.
Through the kitchen area?
I'm not sure if it was through the kitchen area or the laundry room area.
There are two doors that lead to that area of the house?
There's two doors at the breakfast room, and there's one door in the laundry room.
At some point, you made it to the kitchen area, both of you,
Yes.
from the rear of the house somewhere, from one of those doors.
Yes.
And you indicated that you went from the kitchen into the dining room and then into the foyer.
That's what I did.
And your brother went from the kitchen into the family room or the den.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
And went inside to where your parents were.
Yes.
And they were sitting there watching television.
I don't know.
You don't know what they were doing?
I didn't go into the den.
Your brother went into the den
Yes.
and the television was on.
I guess I heard the television on. I don't remember.
And they were watching television.
I don't know.
You mean to tell me after all of these years, sir, that your brother never told you what your parents were doing when he went in from the kitchen to the family room?
Are you asking me what I know now or what I knew then?
What do you know now?
What I know now is they were watching television, I guess.
Okay.
But then I had no idea. And even now, I'm not quite so sure.
Well, you say you know now. Is that because your brother told you? Because he went into that room?
My
That night?
brother went into the room.
Right.
I went through the dining room.
Right.
I didn't go near the den. What they were doing in the den when my brother walked in, I didn't know at the time.
At the time.
Yes.
Subsequently, you learned that they were watching television, correct?
I guess they were. Lyle and I never had a specific conversation about that, no. I never asked him what they were doing when he walked into the den. I didn't think it was important.
In 4 years, sir, you never asked your brother when he went into the den before you had this incident occur, you never asked him, by the way, what was mom and dad doing in that den before we entered? You never asked him that?
No, I never asked him that.
Now then, your brother went into the den, the TV sets on, and your mother and father are at the couch. At some point, he asks your mom or tells your mom, your mother, that you and he are going to go out to the movies, right?
Objection, Your Honor.
Overruled.
At some point, he came out of the room. I don't remember. Well, I didn't hear exactly what he said to my mom or my dad. All I know is that my mom and him were coming out of the den when I was in the foyer, and my mom was telling him that he couldn't go out.
Now, Mr. Menendez, as you're heading to the den from the foyer, going towards the den, did you hear your brother tell your mother, Eric and I are going to go to the movies? See you later.
I didn't head toward the den from the foyer. I was in the foyer when they came out of the den, and I assumed that he told her that we're going to the movies because she was saying, "You're not going out tonight."
And that's the first time you had seen her that day.
This was Sunday. That is the first time I'd seen her that day.
Now, after you heard your mother say, you're not going to the movies, what happened?
Mr. Yes.
Rephrase the question.
What did your mother say, sir?
My mom said that we're not going out tonight, and Lyle was asking why can't we go out tonight? And she was saying because, and she was stuttering, and I think she eventually said because I said so or something like that. I just remember the feeling that I got from it more than the words.
Could you see her face as she was talking to your brother?
Yes,
And what did she look like?
she looked like she did not want us to go out that night.
And then what happened?
And then my father came out of the room.
And what did he say?
He told my mom to shut up.
Then what?
And then he told Lyle that he wasn't going out tonight, and he told me to get up to my room, and then he would be there in a minute.
Then what happened?
And I started heading toward the stairs and sort of lingering on the stairs. And Lyle said, "No, you're not going to touch Eric. You're not going to touch my little brother," something like that. And I believe he told me to get back down the stairs. And that's when my dad just jumped on him.
Your dad did what to Lyle?
He came right toward Lyle and right over him. And he said, "I'll do what I want with this family." Yeah. Something like, "He's not your little brother. He's my son. And I say what goes on in this family. And then he told me, he saw me lingering on the stairs, I guess, and he told me to get back up to my room.
And I believe you
keep going.
indicated that you stood on that landing area and kept watching what was going on.
Well, I certainly didn't want to go up to my room because I knew what my dad was going to do. And I was hoping that Lyle was going to work it out with my dad, but suddenly I saw him getting into this argument, and I was thinking to myself, Jesus, Lyle, what are you doing? Right there, right then, I didn't think it was a good idea to get into a fight with my dad.
You had testified earlier that you're watching your mother's expression, and you could see it from the stairs, from your vantage point. You could see the opening to the den, and you could see your parents. You could see Lyle, correct?
This wasn't taking place in the opening of the den.
Where was it taking place?
This was taking place outside of the den in the foyer area, and I was on the stairs, and I could see both my dad and my mom.
And you could see their faces.
I don't specifically remember seeing my dad's face, but I remember my mom's face pretty clearly.
You remember her expression at that point.
Yes.
And what did she look like at that point?
She just looked like she had a stone face. She wasn't angry. I was watching her expression specifically to know what she was thinking, because that's how I judge things most of my life. And normally she would be angry in this sort of a situation. Normally she'd be fighting with Dad against Lyle or telling me to get up to my room, but she was just sitting there. Standing right in the foyer, just with this resolved look on her face.
Were the lights on in the foyer, or were the lights off?
The lights were on.
Then what happened?
And then at some point, my dad left the room, and I had gone up to the balcony at that point.
Now, when you say he left the room, did he leave the foyer?
Yeah, he left the foyer and back into the den.
And did your mother accompany him at that point? She stood out.
She stood out.
Then what happened?
And then my brother said something to my mother. I still don't quite remember the words. It was something like, "Are you going to let this happen?" or something like that. I wasn't sure whether or not he was talking about them killing us or my dad coming up to my room. I really didn't know. And then my mother said something back to him before my dad came out of the den.
And what happened then?
And then my dad took my mom, and they went back into the den.
I believe your brother testified that he said, "Come on, Kitty," that he was going to finish watching the television program.
He didn't say that. Not that I remember. My thinking was he was coming up to my room right then.
Do you remember your brother testifying to that?
I remember my brother testifying to something like that.
That your father said that he was going to finish watching this movie?
My father did not say that.
But did you hear your brother testify to that?
He testified to something like that. I'm not sure if he said, if you can read me his testimony, I can tell you exactly what he said.
You know what the gist of the testimony was, that your father said that he was going to finish watching this TV program, correct?
No, he definitely didn't say that.
That your brother said that?
My brother did not say that my dad said he was going to finish watching a TV program.
What is it that you recall your brother said?
My brother said something like he was going to, a movie stuck out in my mind when he testified, because that's not what I remember.
He was going to finish watching the movie.
I'm not sure if he put it in those words or that. If you can read me his testimony, it'd be a lot easier.
If he had said he was going to finish watching the movie, would that have been a lie by your brother?
And that would
I'm not
be,
gonna object to the following question.
that would be incorrect.
So your brother would have been wrong about that.
From what I heard, he would have been wrong.
Well, your brother was right next to your father downstairs and you were upstairs. That'd be fair
No.
to say?
At that point, I was still on the stairs. I wasn't completely upstairs until my dad had left the room. And I was just watching my dad and my brother go back and forth.
You were on the staircase?
Yes, I
I
was.
thought at one point your father had said, "Get up to your room," and you went up farther.
My dad had said, get up to my room. And I was only on the first few steps. And I had gone up. It's a L-shaped stairs. But I hadn't gotten up to the balcony by that point.
You had gotten up farther up along the stair route, though.
Yes.
Were you out of his viewpoint at that time?
Was it-
Could your father see where you were?
If he turned and looked at me, yes. And he did at one point and told me to get back up to my room.
Now, you said that your mother was facing you and you could see her expressions, but your father was facing the other way. He was facing your brother, correct?
No, my mother wasn't facing me, but my mom was more behind my dad because my dad kept moving toward my brother and my brother kept moving backwards. And that's the way my dad was. And he would come over you and come forward. But my mom went alongside of him when the conversation first took place. And my dad was saying, no, you're not going out tonight, and was telling me to get up to my room. My mom came over to the side of him, but she didn't keep following him as my brother was backing up.
As your father was going towards your brother, were they going towards the front door in the foyer?
My brother was going back toward the front door. It
Right.
was in that direction.
So they were going away from your direction.
Yes.
So if he had made that statement, he would have been right next to your brother, and you would have been up the flight of stairs and to the rear of the foyer. Isn't that correct?
No, that's not correct.
That's not correct?
I was not all the way up the stairs by that point. But in either case, I could still hear exactly what my father was saying. To me, it stuck out in my mind because he was going to come up to my room to see me, not my brother.
Now you say that you could hear exactly what he was saying. He was facing away from you. He was facing your brother,
Yes.
correct? How is it that you could hear everything he was saying?
Objection on argument.
Overall.
The foyer is only so big. I don't know how I could hear exactly what he was saying, but I could hear exactly what he was saying. My dad didn't speak in a very low tone. Sometimes he did, but not when he was extremely angry. In either case, I could hear exactly what he was saying.
Your house had pretty good acoustics, didn't it?
Parts of my house did. My house it's no longer my house, but it was a very big house, and there were different sections. It went sort of on an L shape. So the middle section had big acoustics, and different parts didn't, but the foyer did.
Remember that 9/11 tape? You were supposedly in the family room where your parents were shotgunned to death, and your brother was up in a bedroom, and he made the 911 call?
Yes.
And you were supposedly downstairs in the family room, and you could hear you yelling quite clearly, couldn't you?
Yes, you could.
So the acoustics in the house were excellent, would you say?
Yeah. When you were in the foyer, you could pretty much hear someone yelling. Yeah. And that's what took
fact-
place on the 911 tape.
In fact, if you were making a call from an upstairs bedroom, you could hear a person yelling in the den, the family room where you killed your parents, correct?
I don't know. I had never been up in my parents' bedroom when someone was yelling in the den, but you
No.
could certainly hear it from the foyer.
Didn't you testify that you were in the den when your brother went upstairs to the bedroom to make the 911 call?
I was in the den, and my brother took me out of the den, and I went back in as he went upstairs.
But wasn't there testimony that when you were heard on this tape yelling, you were actually in the family room yelling?
Your Honor, objection from the question.
Overall.
You remember that, sir?
No, I don't. But I remember that I was in the family room, whether or not I wasn't in my parents' bedroom when my brother was making the 911 tape. So at that point, I don't know whether or not I was in the family room or I was in the foyer. At some point, I ran up the stairs to call Mark Heffernan. So I don't know where I was at what point when my brother was making the 911 call.
Do you recall yelling when you were in the den in the family room?
At some point, I was yelling. I was yelling when my brother was downstairs. At some point, I was yelling when he was upstairs.
From downstairs, you were yelling when he was upstairs calling 911.
Yes.
So if there were these loud fights, a person living in the house would have heard these fights. Would that be fair to say?
It depends where the fights were. It depends how loud they were.
If the fights were in the den and the maid's quarters is right next to the den, the maid would have heard those arguments.
Objection.
That'd be fair to say?
Speculation.
Rephrase the question.
We've been talking, sir, about the acoustics of your house and how you said you could hear everything your father said as he was going away from you towards the front door. And then there was a discussion about the 9/11 tape where you could be heard quite clearly yelling in the den of the house when your brother was upstairs in the bedroom on the phone, supposedly, correct?
No.
No.
You're saying I was in the den. What I'm telling you is that I don't remember where I was. I could have been on the stairs. I could have been in the foyer. I could have been in the den. But I was making the 911 call in my mother's bedroom. And I'm saying that I do not know exactly where I was at what point.
At some point, you were either in the den or the foyer,
Yes.
yelling.
Yes.
And you do remember the maid, Flor Surya, correct?
Yes.
Did she live in a soundproof room?
Excuse me?
she live in a soundproof room, or was she just in one of the regular rooms in the house,
She was in the back section of the house in the maid's room.
which is right next door to the family room, correct?
No.
Is there a common wall to the family room to the maid's quarters?
Yes.
So it's right next door.
Next door in what way? It's behind it, yes.
It's next to it. Like the next room over would be the next room over from here. There'd be a wall in between.
Now I understand what you're saying, yes. Yes, that'd be true.
Now, at some point, after your father said he was going to finish watching the television show, did he close the doors to the den, to the family room?
My father did not say he was going to finish watching the television show, but at some point he did close the doors.
Okay. You didn't hear him say that. Your brother testified that he heard him say that.
No, I heard him say something different than what my brother apparently testified
What did you
to.
hear him say?
I heard him say that he'd be up to my room in a minute. That was very clear in my mind because I thought he was coming any second. I certainly did not think he was going to sit down and finish watching a television show. And that's not what he was going to do.
So if your brother had testified in that fashion, that would be inaccurate.
I asked an answer, John.
Not necessarily.
All right, overall, the answer was no.
At some point, did you see the doors to the family room being closed by your father?
I saw them being closed. I believe they were by my father.
You don't know.
No, I can't say that I know.
Did you see your mother go into the family room with him?
Yes.
Could you hear the television set in the family room as this conversation was occurring?
If the television set was on, I may have heard it, but I was not paying attention to any of that. I was really focused on what was happening in the foyer.
Now, you indicated that when you were in the foyer before your brother came out of the family room, you heard the television set coming from within the family room, correct?
I don't remember. Apparently the television set was on. I don't remember hearing it.
Did your parents often sit in the family room without any lights on, watching television?
No. They often sit in the family room watching television, but normally the lights were on because they had said to me long ago that if you watch TV without the lights on, it's bad for your eyes.
So that would have been highly unusual. Is that fair to say?
I really can't comment on what their custom is. My understanding was that they didn't normally do that.
Now, you lived with them for almost 19 years. Wouldn't that be fair to say?
Yes, that's
And
true.
you've testified about them in detail, and you're saying that you can't testify about their custom here?
I can testify about many of their customs, whether or not they sat and watched TV with the lights off. I can't tell you. Normally they would watch TV in their bedroom, and I didn't go and look to see if the lights were on.
So would it be fair to say that normally if your parents were watching television in the family room, that they would have the lights on?
On?
Yes.
That is my belief.
Okay. And I believe you had indicated to Detective Zoller on September 17th, 1989, that your parents would sometimes fall asleep in front of the television.
I don't remember stating that to Detective Zoller. If you have it, I'll take a look.
Okay. May I approach, Your Honor?
What?
I have a transcript of that statement. Page 9.
Yes, I said one or the other.
You said one or the other, sir?
Yeah, sometimes my mom would, sometimes my dad would, sometimes neither of them would. But normally when they would be tired and watching a movie, they'd retire to their bedroom, and that's where they'd fall asleep. I specifically remember people falling asleep from my Uncle Gene. But
Isn't it true that what you said upon Detective Zoller's question, do they have a habit of falling asleep in front of the television downstairs?
Excuse me, Sabrina, I've got that transcript.
You want me to wait?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
The question is, did they have a habit of falling asleep in front of the television downstairs? And you said, no. Well, my mom would. My mom would. My dad would be up. Actually, they would. Well, they'd fall asleep. Remember that?
I'm going to object because I know that even without the transcript, that's not the end of the discussion.
Objection overruled.
I was confused when I was talking to Detective Zoller. I would say no, and then I said yes. They would sometimes, but normally it would be in their bedroom.
Okay, but if the lights were out, that would be unusual because usually if they're watching TV and they were up, they didn't want to hurt their eyes, their vision, so they would be awake and they would turn those lights on, correct?
I don't know. I doubt they would get up, turn off the light so that they can fall asleep in front of the TV, but I really can't tell you. I mean, I can tell you that I don't remember ever walking in on my parents when they were asleep on the TV.
Except for this night?
Definitely not this night, but I don't remember ever before this night walking in on them when they were asleep on the couch.
After the doors were closed, I think you said that just before the doors were closed, you could see your mother. Do you remember her face?
Just before the doors were
Right.
closed, she was talking to Lyle, and I couldn't see her face at that point.
And then your father said, "Come on, Kitty, let's go into the den."
No, that's not what he said.
What did he say?
He walked back out of the room, grabbed my mom's arms, and took her back into the den and said, "Let's get back, or let's go back to the den," or something of those words.
What was that last part?
Or something of those words.
And at that point, what did you do?
At that point, my brother came running up the stairs, and I met him at the top of the stairs, and he looked really panicked at that point. And I said, "I'm not going in the room. I'm not going in the room."
You're not going into what room?
I told him that I wasn't going to let Dad go in my room. I wasn't going to wait for him in my room. I couldn't let Dad do it to me that night in my room.
Okay, so you went up and you got your gun from your room, and you and Lyle went back to the guest house?
No. I told Lyle I'd meet him at the car, and I went and got the gun and went to the car.
So why did you tell him you'd meet him at the car?
Because the shells that the man said on Saturday were in the car, I had left my gun inside my room with the 2 shells in it.
So you weren't so freaked out that you just simply picked up the gun. You were thinking rationally, and that you thought, I've got to get to the car. That's where our high-powered ammunition is. We'll eject the birdshot, and we'll put in the buckshot. Is that what you were thinking?
No, that's not what was happening. All I was thinking was, I got to get my gun, and these shells that I have inside my gun aren't something about the shells inside the gun were not the right ammunition. The man in the store said these shells aren't the right ammunition. So I was thinking, I got to get to my car. I got to get to my car.
And you went up to your room, and you got your shotgun, the pump shotgun, and you thought, I got to go down. I've got to take out these birdshot cartridges, and I have to load my gun with buckshot.
No, actually, at that point, I was just thinking, I got to get to my car as fast as I can because I thought my dad was coming up to my room. And I was just thinking, I got to get down there because I knew I had to cross the foyer. And when my dad was going to come out of the den, he was going to come out of that den through the foyer. And if I saw him on the foyer and he came out and I was running down the stairs with the gun, I would have frozen. I was just thinking, I got to get to the car as fast as I can. I wasn't thinking about ejecting shells and doing this. I just wasn't thinking about all that.
And you were afraid. You wanted to get out of that house as fast as you could
I wanted to get to my car as fast as I could.
so you can get the ammunition.
Yes.
You weren't thinking about, he's going to kill me. let me get to my car. Let me hightail it out of here. Let me lay some rubber in my driveway and get out of here.
No,
Objection,
I was thinking he was coming up to my room right then, and it was going to happen right then. And I was saying to myself over and over, hurry, 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 so that my mind wouldn't go all over the place and I could just keep focused to get to my car because I knew I was about to lose it. But I definitely didn't think I got to hightail it out of there. Never crossed my mind.
You didn't think that you'd have to get out of the house. You just wanted to get to your ammunition.
I didn't think I could get out of the house. It never crossed my mind.
Mr. Menendez, you ran out the front door and no one was right on your tail. You ran out the front door and you got to your car and there was no one coming after you.
I didn't run out the front door.
What did you do?
I ran out the den door.
Okay, you ran out the back door.
No, I'm sorry, not the den door. The study door next to the front door.
Okay, was your father right on your tail then?
No, he wasn't.
No one was chasing you.
I didn't know what my parents were doing in the den, but I thought they were coming out.
But
I did think they were coming out at any second, and I had got it done this as fast as possible.
You thought that they were going to kill you any second, and you ran out that door to the study, correct?
To the study, yes.
Is that the room with the portrait of Martin Luther King?
objection.
Yes, that's the
Is
room.
that the one? Now,
Mhm.
that's the one that you'd always unlock?
Yes, it is.
And when you went out that door, no one was chasing you.
I didn't hear anyone behind me, no.
And you got out to the outside, to the front of your house.
Yes.
And did you look back and no one was chasing you?
I looked back and no one was chasing me.
And so you went to your car,
Yes.
got in your car and said, Lyle, let's get out of here.
No, that's not what I did. Lyle wasn't there yet, and I just ejected those 2 shells and started loading my gun as fast as possible.
You knew what you wanted to do. As soon as you saw those doors close, you went upstairs, you got your gun. You were thinking not of running away, not of trying to elude anybody, but you were thinking, I've got to get these bunk cartridges out of my gun because they're only birdshot, and I've got to get to my car. I've got to get that buckshot in there, and I've got to have enough firepower to kill my parents. Is that what you're thinking?
I wasn't at the bottom of the stairs when my parents went in the room. As soon as my parents in the room, I met my brother at the top of the stairs, and I told him, I can't go in my room tonight. I'm not letting him go in my room tonight. And at that point, I said, I got to get to the car. And that's when I ran to the car immediately.
Okay, wait a minute.
It didn't happen this, and this. It happened, boom.
When it comes to listening to your father, you're lower on the staircase, but when it comes to how far up you were closer to your room. Is that right?
No.
Okay, in any event, you went and got your shotgun, and you weren't thinking, let me just see if they're going to come out, and I'll shoot them if they come out. The doors were closed. No one was coming to get you, and you decided, I'm going to take these birdshot cartridges out of my gun. I'm going to go to the car. I don't see my brother, but I know what I have to do. I'm going to eject these 2 birdshot cartridges. I'm going to go to the car, and I'm going to load my gun to full capacity. Isn't that what you were thinking?
Sustained.
What were you thinking?
I was thinking they were coming out of that room and they were going to come any second. And I kept on having this vision when I was in the closet getting my gun that if I ran down the stairs, my dad was going to be at the foyer because he was about to come up to my room. And I was thinking, and it flashed through my mind, I can barricade myself in my room. And then I realized I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm not going to be able to confront him like that. And I just ran down to my car.
Once you came down the stairs, you went past the family room, through the foyer, you were out. No one was chasing you, correct?
Exactly, no.
And you went to your car.
Yes.
That was your goal, to get to your car so you could take out the cartridges that you had in there, the birdshot, correct?
Yes.
So you could reload it with the buckshot.
Yes, so I could put it in the buckshot.
You weren't thinking about getting away from someone that was trying to kill you. You were thinking about getting back to that room as fast as you can so you could burst in on your parents and kill them, correct?
I was thinking about getting to that room before they left the room because if I met them in the foyer, I thought I was going to die. I knew I had to get to that room before they even exited that door. That was the main thing going in my mind. Hurry, I got to get to that room.
You knew that when you went upstairs, you dashed into your room and you got your gun. Your parents were not coming up the stairs. They had been watching television. They were in the family room.
I did not think at all that they were watching television in the family room.
Oh, they're sitting in the family room and the TV's going, but they're not watching it?
I didn't believe they were sitting in the family room watching TV, and they weren't.
How do you know that? You said you were never in that room.
Because when I went in that room, both of them were up, and my dad was on this side of the couch.
Now you say that your father and your mother, as you burst into the room, were standing up between the sofa and the coffee table, correct?
I remember my dad being on the, if you're facing the TV, my dad being on the left side of the coffee table, coming toward the door. That's the one thing that stood out of my mom and my mind, and my mom was to my left.
Do you think that they were seated on that couch watching the television, which is right in front of them, and when you burst into the doors, did you make some noise when you burst into the doors? Did you knock into the doors and open them up?
Objection, Counsel.
I don't know.
You don't know what you did?
I know that I burst through the doors. I don't remember how much noise I made or what happened.
Do you think if someone's sitting there watching television and someone bursts through the doors that they're going to look in that direction and maybe get startled?
If they were sitting down?
Right,
If they were sitting down, there's no way they could have been standing up when I walked in the room.
because you came in so quickly that you surprised them. Is that right? Is that what you're saying?
My thought was, I got to get to that room, and they can't be exiting that room, and that was the purpose, just to get there as quickly as possible. And when I got there, they were both standing up.
So you gave them no warning as to what you were about to do, correct? They had no inkling as to what you and your brother would be doing to them that night.
No, I thought they were coming up to my room.
Pause for speculation.
Overall.
Is that correct, Mr. Menendez?
Is
When
what
you went
correct?
into that room, you had not given your parents any inkling, any idea that you'd be bursting into the room with your shotguns to kill them. They had no idea that that's what you were going to do.
No,
Objection calls for mind reading and speculation.
All right, it does call for speculation. You may rephrase the question if you choose.
Let's go to your state of mind, Mr. Menendez. You said that your mother could read minds, correct?
no, I didn't say that.
She had a magical power,
Yes,
and she would listen to your conversations on the telephone.
she used to do that a lot in
And
Pennington.
she knew exactly what you were thinking, you thought,
Yes,
and where you were going to go and what you were going to do.
yes,
In fact, you found some tapes afterwards, correct?
yes,
And you listened to those tapes of your conversations, correct?
yes,
And you destroyed those tapes, didn't you?
yes.
Now, before you knew that your mother was taping you, you believed that she had this magical power that she could read your mind. Isn't that what you said?
Essentially, I didn't know how she knew all these things about me, and it was really eerie to me.
You believed that she knew a week or so before you actually killed her and your father that you were going to kill her. Do you remember saying that to Dr. Oziel?
No, I would never have said that to Dr. Oziel.
That your mother had been locking her bedroom door as though she knew that you were going to kill her.
No, definitely
Did that
not.
have anything to do with your belief that she could read minds?
You're confusing me. Are you saying what I said to Dr. Oziel?
Yes.
I
Did you
didn't
ever
say
tell
that
him
to Dr. Oziel. I
Did you-
told Dr. Oziel that everyone in the house was locking the door and that it was a really tense situation that weekend, and that my mother was locking their door, that Lyle's door was always locked in the guest house, and that my door was always locked, and in fact she was locking the main house doors. But I don't know what you're saying right now.
Now, you believed that she had this magical power, correct? That she could read your mind.
I don't know if at times I believe that, but when I really thought more rationally, I thought maybe she just had someone investigating me, or I didn't quite understand. I didn't get it. I thought maybe she was listening to me on the phone, but I would click over, and so I'd know she wasn't on the phone, so I didn't understand.
Had you given your parents any warning that you were about to burst into the room, the family room that night, before you actually broke into the room?
No, I thought that my parents thought
The
I was
the
sitting.
question is, sir,
Excuse me, could the witness answer the question?
Objection sustained. Why don't you answer the question? Did you understand the question? Let's start with that.
I thought I did, maybe I didn't.
All right, why don't you repeat it?
did you or your brother ever give your parents warning that you were going to burst into the room that night with your shotguns and kill them? Did you give them any warning?
No, my understanding was that they thought I was waiting up in my bedroom. I didn't think that they thought I was going to burst in. And my dad, I believed, and my mom thought I was waiting up in my bedroom.
The question is, did you give them any warning that you were going to burst into the family room? Yes or no?
No.
When you spoke to Dr. Oziel, he has testified that you said that you told him that you and Lyle, your brother, surprised your parents in that family room, correct?
Is that the word he used?
Yes.
Then that's the word he used.
And you said, I believe in examination here, that you may have used that word.
I don't remember that word. I specifically remember saying that we ran into the room.
But you testified-
Maybe he interpreted that as surprised.
You testified that you may have used that word, correct?
If I did, I did.
When you and your brother got to the doors to the family room, was it you who arrived first?
Yes.
And how much did you have to wait for your brother to come?
I didn't wait. He
As
was
soon
right.
as you got to that door, you burst in.
Yes.
You didn't wait for your brother?
He was right next to me.
Well, how much time had elapsed by the time he had come up right next to you?
There was no time that elapsed. We ran straight from the car, straight through the foyer, straight into the den.
Okay. So when you ran to your car, you were the first one to your car. Would that be fair to say?
Yes.
As you were ejecting the birdshot, did your brother come up?
My brother came up. I don't remember exactly at what point.
Would you describe for these juries how you unloaded your gun?
You just pumped down there was a pump. You just pumped it and the shells came out.
Is that the same pump mechanism that actually makes the gun fire?
Yes.
So you have to put do anything to the gun itself before you do that?
No.
You just start pumping
Yes.
and you pump these shells out of your gun.
Yes.
What was it that you did differently when you actually shot the gun?
When you shoot the gun, you have to pull the trigger.
When you eject, you simply have to pump it.
Yes.
After you fire once, are you saying that you have to pump it to get the other cartridge into the chamber
Yes.
and then pull the trigger again?
Yes.
Okay. So you simply, to take the shells out, you simply pumped it twice and ejected.
Yes.
Did you do that to your gun first before your brother got there?
Do what?
Eject the the bird type ammunition.
I believe so. Like I said, I don't remember exactly at what point he got there.
At some point, you're pumping your rounds out, and do you then go to the buckshot?
It all happened in one continuous thing. The gun pumps in like 1/10 of a second, and the shells just came out, and I just was I knew they were in the box, and the shells were going all over the place, and I was just putting whichever ones I could grab in my hand.
Did you open up the box, or did your brother do that?
I don't remember that. I just remember grabbing for the shells.
After you grabbed for the shells, how many did you load?
I loaded, I believe 5. I don't remember. I wasn't thinking about it.
And did you see your brother doing likewise to eject his birdshot cartridges?
I don't have a specific memory of that, but I know that he did because he said he did.
Did you see him loading his gun?
I believe so. I don't specifically remember, but I believe so. And I know he did, so.
Was there any discussion at the car, any hesitation at the car?
No.
No?
No.
You never actually got into the car and said, let's get out of here?
No. The only thing I remember is me saying to Lyle, hurry.
Hurry?
Yeah.
Hurry what?
Hurry. That's the main thing I was thinking. I was saying it over and over again in my mind so that I wouldn't fall or I wouldn't lose myself. And I was just thinking, hurry. And I believe I said that to Lyle.
Did he respond to you at all?
I don't remember him responding.
When you were saying hurry, did you mean to to hurry up and load the gun, or hurry up, we got to go back and kill mom and dad?
I was thinking, hurry, we got to get there before they come out of the room.
When you say get there, what are you talking about?
Get to the den.
After you both loaded, and you loaded first, you ran to the den doors, correct?
Yes.
And your brother was right behind you.
Yes.
Were the doors shut tight?
They were closed.
Did you open the left side and peek in?
No.
You didn't look in.
No.
When you stopped at the doors, did you listen to see if there's any talking, any conversation inside?
No.
So as soon as you got to that door, there's no hesitation, you just broke right into the door.
Yes.
Did you knock the doors off its hinges?
No. The doors opened up pretty easily.
How did you do that?
You just went right into the door. I'm not sure whether I specifically, I don't remember how I bursted through, whether the lever needed to be pushed down, or I don't remember. I just remember bursting in. I don't remember exactly.
Did the doors open to the interior of that room? Or
Yes.
swing out?
They opened to the interior.
So you swung the door open on which side, the left or the right?
The left side.
And your brother was on the right side.
I believe so.
And you burst into the room first.
Yes.
You were the first one into that room.
Yes.
Your brother followed you.
Yes.
And you could see your father, correct?
He's what I specifically remember because he was right there.
Now, you said that your father said no as you burst in.
No. He said no after I'd started firing.
So after you shot him a couple times, he said no.
No.
What happened?
After I had shot my gun, I don't remember what was happening between the first shot and the last shot, but I remember him saying, "I know." He said it in a loud, rough tone. I just remember the word, and I remembered it every day.
When he said no, did he raise up his hands and turn his face so that he wouldn't get blasted?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
No.
You remember seeing him. You remember hearing him say no. Correct?
Yes.
And you just started shooting.
I had already been shooting.
How many times had you shot?
I don't remember.
Now you said that you have to pull the trigger and then pump the gun, correct? In order
Yes.
to get another shell in there?
Yes.
Okay, so as soon as you came into the door, did you pull the trigger?
I believe so. I'm not exactly sure.
How far did you get into the room before you actually pulled that trigger, sir?
I don't remember. I really don't remember. It's something that I have not wanted to think about for a long time, but I couldn't help it. I just have the image of bursting through, and I have the image of the fire in front of me.
And you have the image of your father and mother getting shot in front of you.
No, I luckily do not have that image. I just have the image of the fire in front of me.
Now, would it be fair to say that your father was the closest one to you as you entered into that room that day?
Yes.
Was he the first one you shot?
I don't know.
As soon as you entered that door, you shot.
I believe so.
Was your father the first one you saw as you entered into that room?
I believe so.
Is he the first one you shot?
I don't know.
Did you see your mother at that point?
I believe so.
How close was your mother to your father?
She wasn't close.
How close?
I don't know. I know I saw an image of her far away, but
You saw what?
an image of her far away
How far away?
across the room.
So the person you were shooting at was not the person that was farther away. It was the person that was closest to you. Would that be fair to say?
No, I don't remember. I ran into the room, and at some point I just started firing right directly in front of me. I don't remember who or what
Now,
was
the
happening.
first one who was directly in front of you was who? Your mother or your father?
My father wasn't directly in front of me. He was the closest one to me.
Did you shoot at the closest person to you?
I don't remember.
Did you hear your father make any sounds of pain as he was shot?
No, definitely not.
Did you hear your mother?
No.
So as you came bursting into the room and shooting, did you continue to move towards the bar area?
I don't remember.
Well, sir, did you stop right in front of the door so that your brother would bang into you?
I know that I ended up somewhere between the coffee table and the TV, but I don't remember running there. I just know that I ended up there.
And you remember pulling the trigger and shooting at your mother and father.
I remember the fire in front of me. I don't remember pumping. I don't remember pulling the trigger. I don't remember.
You indicated that you remembered pulling the trigger as you entered.
I knew that I started firing as soon as I entered.
You pulled the trigger.
I don't remember pulling a trigger. I obviously pulled the trigger, but I don't have the memory of pulling it with my
And
hand.
think about it. After you pulled the trigger, did you then pump?
Objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation.
Overruled.
I don't remember. I must have pumped. I don't remember doing it. I don't remember the action. I just remember the fire.
Now you remember all these dreams that you had when you were a little child. You remember your father making you eat garbage in the form of meat and string beans, and that your mother was present when he did that, when they were so mean to you, making you eat your dinner up. But you can't, and this was years and years ago, but you can't remember the night that you killed your mother and father?
Objection, this makes the testimony.
That objection's overruled.
And contrary.
Sustained.
Sir, can you remember the night that you killed your mother and father when you entered into that room?
I remember a lot of things before, but I don't remember once I went into the room. Afterwards, I had the image over and over and over again in my dreams and when I was awake, and I never remembered what happened.
The image of what?
Of running into that room and the fire in front of me. The image of what I saw after, but what I saw during, I don't remember.
So you remembered when you told Dr. Ozio that you were having nightmares, you remembered what you did that night to your parents. That's what you had nightmares about?
I had nightmares about that and what had happened to me with my dad over my life. I had nightmares about both those things.
When you told Dr. Ozio that you had a guilty conscience and you had to speak to somebody about what you did to your parents, what nightmares were you referring to? Was that the night? Was that the night that you went into your parents' family room and killed them?
Your Honor, the question, misquoted.
Objection overruled.
I had talked to him about the nightmares I had over my life. I had talked to him about the images of my dad and I told him about the nightmares of my memory of going into that room.
Mr. Menendez, you're telling us that you told Dr. Ozio the images about your father and you in your childhood?
No, I didn't.
Is that what you're saying?
I'm telling you the nightmares and the images that I had after my parents died. I'm confused. Were you asking exactly what I told Dr. Ozio?
Right. Your Honor, I know the court was going to break at 3 o'clock. I don't want to go over. It's a few minutes over already.
All right, you're ready for a break?
Well, I don't want to keep anybody.
Okay, then we'll take our recess. We indicated a juror has a medical appointment and we would break early. So we'll do that at this time. We'll recess until tomorrow at 9 o'clock. Again, please don't discuss this case among yourselves or with anyone else. Don't form any final opinions about it. We'll resume tomorrow at 9 o'clock.